Chapter 347. As the sun once again shone on the earth, the cold winter that brought the residents of Sanyo City seemed to have gradually subsided, and the temperature gradually fell into a rising trend. Presumably, not long after, the cold winter of Sanyo City would become a thing of the past, and when it came to this small town in the countryside again, it would be a matter of the next season. In the elegant manner, in the living room, Noah slid his fingers in the air and wrote an extremely precise and mysterious rune. Then, with a flick of his finger, the rune that was flickering with a faint light trembled all over, and like a flying star, it suddenly flew out. In just the blink of an eye, the precise and mysterious rune swept straight to the forehead of Shizuki Kusajuro, who was standing in the middle of the living room with a blank face, and directly imprinted on it. The trembling sound, the precise and mysterious rune little by little disappeared into the forehead of Shizuki Kusajuro, and drilled into the interior of his brain. Shizuki Kusajuro seemed to feel something, and showed a surprised expression, but after a while, the expression on his face froze, and the spirit in his pair of eyes began to laze. In this short second, in a place that others couldn't see, Shizuki Kusajuro's mind had undergone earth-shaking changes. First of all, from the moment Shizuki Kusajuro was born until this second, all of his memories seemed to materialize, and emerged one by one. Immediately, in these images, some of the fragments that were recently imprinted in this brain region broke without warning, and turned into little stars, and were absorbed by a rune in the center of the mind, and disappeared. The images that were absorbed by the rune were all the various things related to the magic world that Shizuki Kusajuro had encountered during this period of time. These images were all unreservedly absorbed by the rune in the center of the brain region, and were removed from Shizuki Kusajuro's mind. When the rune disappeared, these fragments of memories that were absorbed would also completely disappear, and Shizuki Kusajuro would no longer remember the various incredible things that he had encountered, and would return to the world of only ordinary people. Under such circumstances, Shizuki Kusajuro's lax eyes finally closed tightly, and his body went soft, and he collapsed to the ground. On the side, Aoko and Yuju had been quietly watching from the side. After Shizuka Kusanagi fell, their eyes were cast on Shizuka Kusanagi. After a short while, Aoko Aozaki spoke in a deep voice. "There shouldn't be a problem now, right?" "Probably." Noah looked down at Shizuka Kusanagi, who was sleeping peacefully as if he had fallen asleep, and sighed. At the very least, all his memories related to the magic world have been erased. When he wakes up again, Aochi and I will only be his ordinary classmates. As for Yuju, he shouldn't have any impression of her at all, right? Upon hearing this, Aoko nodded and stopped talking. Yuju's expression relaxed, as if she was extremely satisfied that Shizuka Kusakajuro no longer remembered her. "Then hurry up and get him out." Hearing Yuju's words, Noah shrugged. He raised one of his hands and rolled up his sleeves, exposing the bandages on his arm to the air. A bright golden light bloomed from the bandages on his arm. Through the bandages, it reflected a precise pattern like a wolf's head howling at the moon. Roar. As if it came from ancient times, the entire living room was filled with echoes of the howl. Accompanied by such a roar, a wolf seemed to have been drawn in the dazzling golden light. Starting from the silhouette, it was slowly carved out. In the end, it turned into a sacred and mighty golden wolf. With a crouch, it landed on the ground. Woo! The golden wolf came to Noah's side as soon as it appeared. It very docilely stretched out its head and rubbed against Noah's thigh. It was completely different from its previous violent and ferocious appearance. Noah touched the golden wolf's furry head and smiled. "Bio, send this person to the church. They will know what to do." The golden wolf Bio let out a low groan as if he had received the order. He leaped up and bit the collar of Shizuka Kusajikuro, who was lying on the ground. It was as if he was biting a piece of meat and not a person. With an extremely light flash, he brought Shizuka Kusajikuro and disappeared without a trace. Looking at the golden wolf Bio's gradually disappearing figure, even Yuju couldn't help but cast a suspicious gaze on Noah. "Did you really tame that golden wolf and turn it into your familiar?" It was no wonder that Yuju was suspicious. After all, it was a fantasy breed that only existed in fantasy and legends. It was also a variant, but in terms of strength, it had already surpassed the category of fantasy beast and reached the level of mythical beast. Not to mention such a special and powerful fantasy breed variant, even an ordinary fantasy breed couldn't be tamed by humans. Previously, Aozaki Orange was able to make the golden wolf Bio her familiar, which was equivalent to doing something unprecedented. Now, in the blink of an eye, this variant golden wolf had become Noah's familiar. Yuju couldn't help but be suspicious. Calling it a familiar is actually a bit wrong. Noah scratched his cheek. After all, I didn't split my magical power to sign a contract with Bio. Although Bio is my familiar, in terms of status, it's still a bit different, right? Then are you still keeping it? Aozaki Aoko's expression was a bit serious as she asked. Although it's a fantasy breed, and a variant at that, it's extremely precious. You can't be careless and be betrayed by it like Orange. You can rest assured about this. Noah looked in the direction that Bio left and the corner of his mouth slowly rose. There's no way that Bio will betray me. Noah was family, so he knew that the golden wolf Bio wouldn't betray him. Not to mention anything else, just the fact that the golden wolf Bio and Noah were living as one meant that it was impossible for the golden wolf Bio to betray Noah. This was because once it left Noah, the golden wolf Bio would definitely die. Moreover, even if the golden wolf Bio wanted to disregard the consequences of its life and choose to leave Noah, it wouldn't be able to do it. Now, the golden wolf Bio had already integrated into Noah's body with Noah as the core. Don't forget that Noah had 3 major constitutions, one of which was that it could absorb all the power that integrated into his body. Under such circumstances, when the golden wolf Bio integrated into Noah's body, it was completely absorbed by Noah's body and became one of Noah's powers. Therefore, rather than saying that the golden wolf Bio was Noah's familiar, it was better to say that it was Noah's doppelganger. Even its soul was engraved with the concept of Noah as the master, which was equivalent to a part of Noah's body. It was impossible for it to have any thoughts of betraying Noah. This was also the reason why the golden wolf Bio was so docile towards Noah. Otherwise, even if it had integrated into Noah's body, with the golden wolf Bio's pride as a fantasy breed, it would still be impossible for it to be as docile as a pet. In other words, Noah had obtained a doppelganger that listened to his every word and whose strength was not below his own. It was a great bargain. Of course, perhaps it was the so-called, where there is gain, there is loss, but Noah had also lost another important guardian after obtaining the golden wolf Bio. It's been 3 days since then. Yuju frowned and asked. You still haven't found Avalon? When this matter was mentioned, Noah's face was filled with helplessness. No, after that, I went to the scene several times, and even searched the bottom of the mountain, but I still couldn't find Avalon. Yes. Avalon was lost. This was also the reason why Aoko and Yuju had been injured in the battle with Aoko that day. It was also the main reason why Noah had delayed the matter of erasing Shizuka Kusahiro's memory until now in order to heal Aoko and Yuju. According to Aoko and Yuju, originally, Avalon had always been there. However, after Aoko had been fatally injured by Aoko, and not long after, she had fully recovered. Aoko, who realized that something was wrong, found Avalon. Then, there was no then. In order to win, Aoko directly sent Avalon flying, and the strongest guardian in the world disappeared just like that. Chapter 348. In order to find Avalon, Noah had been using the Runi magic to heal Aoko and Yoju's injuries every day. He also went to the mountain where the battle took place that night. In the end, no matter if it was the top of the mountain, the middle of the mountain, the foot of the mountain, or even the bottom of the mountain, Noah still couldn't find Avalon after searching the entire mountain. This caused Aoko and Yoju's injuries to not have fully recovered until now. Since you can't find it, it's about time to give up, right? Aoko said to Noah with an indifferent attitude. Since you already have that golden wolf's value shouldn't be below your Avalon, right? I think that Avalon should have been sucked into the space crack that day. Yuju used her slender finger to touch her chin. After pondering for a moment, she gave a guess. Your battle with Bio caused a lot of damage to the space. Avalon should have been sucked into the space crack at that time. I don't know which corner of the world it was lost to. After hearing Yoju's words, Noah also felt that it was very possible. That day, Ouchie Orange had only sent Avalon flying. Logically speaking, Noah should have searched the entire mountain, so he should have found Avalon by now. But if he still couldn't find it, then Avalon could only have been sucked into the space crack that day and lost to another place. If that was the case, it wouldn't be easy to find Avalon. At the thought of this, Noah felt helpless again. Forget it, although I feel a little sorry for Gaia and Alea, since I can't find it, then there's nothing I can do. Yuju, who had been paying attention to Noah's words, was startled and looked at Noah with a puzzled expression. Sorry for Gaia and Alea? What does that mean? Aoko also looked at Noah with a stunned expression. Gaia and Alea, they seem to be the combination of the planet's will and the human's unconscious, the two great powers of this world, right? Why would you let them down? Well. Noah waved his hand perfunctorily. I'm just saying, don't take it to heart. Hearing this, Aoko and Yuju both looked at Noah with deep meaning, then turned their heads away without saying anything. However, when they looked at each other, their eyes flashed with a thoughtful light. Speaking of which, to be able to fight against the golden wolf Bio, who was a fantasy breed, Noah couldn't be a simple human, right? Now that he mentioned the two great powers of the two great powers, how could Aoko and Yuju believe him to say that he was to say that he just of the great powers? This was to say, the secret of the great powers of the great powers of the great powers, of the great powers of the great powers of the world. Of course, no matter how active Aoko and Yoju's thoughts were, no matter how much they guessed, it was impossible for them to guess that Noah was so close to the two great powers of the great powers that they could be considered as mother and son. Although, this so-called mother and son relationship made Noah quite sad. If you have the time to let your imagination run wild, why don't you think about how to heal your injuries? Noah rolled his eyes when he saw the two girls falling into deep thought. Don't forget, you are still injured. Aoko and Yuju might seem to be fine now, but in reality, whether it was Aoko or Yuju, both of them were injured internally. Aoko Aozaki, in order to defeat Aozaki Orange, forced her magic circuit into an overloaded state. Now, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that the inside of her magic circuit was in tatters. Even if it didn't affect her normal life, she couldn't produce a single bit of magic power. Yoju's injuries were relatively small, but in order to defeat Aoko, Yuju sacrificed a lot of her tamed demons, and now her strength was greatly reduced. Knowing that Aoko and Yuju paid such a big price to defeat Aoko, Noah was very surprised. Was Aoko really that strong? In order to sign a contract with Bio, Aoko should have divided a lot of her magic power, and her strength should have decreased a lot. In such a case, could the original successor of the Aoko family still have the ability to seriously injure Aoko and Yuju? Aoko was an apprentice magician, but Yoju's ability was one of the top magicians, and her tamed demons were so strong that ordinary magicians could not compare to her. In addition, there was also a mobile battery that was good at destruction on the side. Such an opponent, how could Aoko fight? It's mainly because Cheng is too familiar with Yuju's and my magic tricks. She even set up a trap for us in advance, eliminating all of our traps and replacing them with her runny. Many of Yuju's tamed demons are greatly restrained. Aoko was a little unwilling to admit defeat when she mentioned this. Moreover, my sister also prepared a lot of trump cards. Not only did she have the newly made magic eye, she also extravagantly took them a magic seal from other magicians and used it. If it was not for your scabbard, Yuju and I might not have been able to exchange for the result of both sides being injured. Aoko is indeed a very difficult opponent. Yuju glanced at Noah. I heard that you let Aoko go in the end, is that right? Noah smiled slightly and did not answer, but that expression was equivalent to admitting it. Seeing Noah's silent admission, whether it was Aoko Aozaki or Yuju, their expressions relaxed for a moment. It seemed that these two girls were not only not regretful that Aoko was able to survive, but were also very satisfied. Obviously, although they did not say it out loud, they had already accepted their fate. But for Aoko and Yuju, they still had a trace of affection. I believe that in the future, the special bond and fate between Aoko, and Yuji will still unfold between the three of them, right? But that did not have much to do with Noah. Although it's a bit of a pity that Avalon is gone, I've found what I was looking for here, and I've accomplished my goal, Noah suddenly said. It is time to leave. When this sentence echoed in the living room of the mansion, Aoko, who was about to reach out for the cup filled with black tea, froze. Yuju also suddenly raised her head and could not help but look in Noah's direction. The atmosphere, which had been somewhat relaxed until now, suddenly became oppressive. It was not until this moment that Aoko and Yuju remembered. Noah's purpose in coming to Sano City was to find something on Golden Wolf Bio. Now, Golden Wolf Bio had become Noah's familiar. Of course, Noah should have also found what he was looking for, and there was no reason for him to continue staying here. Yes. Noah, it is time to leave. Aoko and Yuju understood this, but they could not explain what they were feeling now. They only knew that their emotions had become very complicated in an instant, very complicated. However, Aoko and Yuju were not the kind of people who would be pretentious or give in to their emotions. Is that so? The stiffness in Aoko's body slowly disappeared. She continued to reach out, picked up the teacup, took a sip, and asked as if nothing had happened. When do you plan to leave? After your injuries have healed. Noah also did not have the intention to be pretentious. His answer was very straightforward, which made him look a little cold, but the words that came out of his mouth dispelled this feeling. Before your injuries have healed, I can't leave in peace. Aoko nodded and did not speak anymore. On the other hand, Yoju's eyes, which were like black holes without any impurities and emotions, moved to Noah's body and stared at Noah without letting go. It was as if she wanted to remember Noah's appearance. She silently stared at him. Noah could only remain silent in response to Yoju's behavior. Because, even he could not read Yoju's feelings from her eyes, which had always been emotionless. At this moment, Noah could only pretend that he did not know and turned his head away. Therefore, Noah naturally did not notice. On the side, Aoko also kept staring at him. Chapter 349. It was nighttime. In the sound of Jing Yi's footsteps, Noah slowly walked down the stairs and came to the lobby of the building. This was Noah's favorite place. There was no other reason other than the fact that there was a glass skylight at the top of the ceiling. Regardless of whether it was morning or night, the sunlight or moonlight would shine through the skylight into the hall, giving people a sense of beauty and enjoyment. Therefore, Noah liked this place very much. He would stay here whenever he had nothing to do, basking in the sunlight or moonlight, and enjoying the rare peaceful atmosphere. It had been about 10 days since Shizuka Kusajikuro left the manor house. During this time, Noah and Aoko returned to school and continued to live the lives of ordinary people. During this time, Noah also met Shizuka Kusajikuro a few times, but Shizuka Kusajikuro had long forgotten about Noah. Instead, he had a deep impression of Aoko. That was natural. Excluding the time spent together in the manor house, Shizuka Kusajikuro's memory of Noah was only a few coincidental meetings and a few harmless conversations. Now that the memory of what had happened in the manor house had been erased, with Shizuka Kusajikuro's slow mind, Noah did not occupy a place that could not even be called a corner in his memory. He was completely an ordinary classmate. Noah did not have any regrets about this. He and Shizuka Kusajikuro were just nodding acquaintances, not good friends. It was already good enough that he could save Shizuka Kusajikuro's life and not let him die in the hands of Aoko and Yuju. On the other hand, Noah still had some feelings for Yuan Maru. Therefore, Noah also told Yuan Maru that he was about to apply to drop out of school and leave Sano City, and said goodbye properly. Now, Aoko and Yoju's injuries were basically healed with the help of the Runi magic and the two girls' respective magic seals. In other words, it was time for Noah to leave. Tonight would be the last time Noah stayed in the manor house. Under such circumstances, Noah's first thought was to go to the hall of the manor house and enjoy the gentle moonlight for the last time. To Noah's surprise, when he came downstairs, there was already someone in the hall on the first floor. Just as Noah expected, the gentle and beautiful moonlight shone through the skylight like a beautiful snow scene, illuminating the entire hall of the manor house. Bathed in the moonlight, the pitch-black girl, who was so beautiful that it made one think of dolls and dolls, was sitting on the ground in a relaxed posture. She leaned against the stove, as if she had completely lost all signs of life and was sleeping quietly. The beautiful scene was exactly the same as the scene Noah saw when he first came to live in the manor house. It was just that compared to that time, Noah and Yuju were no longer living together purely for the sake of interests. This made Yoju's eyes, Yoju's Yuju. Back then, Noah's relationship with Yuju was not only not friendly, it could even be considered bad. The first time he saw Yuju sleeping in the hall, Noah didn't choose to wake her up. This time, Noah also didn't think of waking Yuju up, but he didn't turn a blind eye to it either. Turning around, Noah walked up the stairs and returned to the second floor. He walked in the direction of his room, and when he appeared again, there was a quilt in his hand. Rustle, with the sound of cloth rubbing against each other, Noah covered the sleeping Yuju with his own quilt. Looking at Yoju's beautiful face, he couldn't help but reach out and stroke the bangs in front of Yoju's forehead. When they first met, Noah thought Yuju was a pure magician who lacked emotions and was even completely cold-blooded. However, after spending more than a month together, Noah finally got to know the real Yuju. The indifference and ruthlessness on the surface was just a girl's decoration. It was the pure-blooded witch's bloodline that caused mischief. In fact, Yuju was not only a person who was easily annoyed, but also fussed over some small matters from time to time, and even lost her temper over it. While it seemed that Yuju lacked emotions, in fact, Yoju's inner feelings were richer than anyone else's. She didn't say it on the surface, but Noah could see that Yuju really valued Aoko. She also had feelings for Aoko, whom she had spent more than 10 years with. Yuju would always use the principles of a magician to demand herself. In fact, it was only because she didn't want to waste the talent and legacy left by her mother. This was Yuju of Jiyuji. A person who seemed to have no emotions, but was actually very sensitive to emotions. Wasn't such a girl worthy of other people's love and pity? After Noah covered Yuju with a quilt and smoothed the bangs in front of her forehead, footsteps sounded behind Noah. Hearing the footsteps, Noah didn't need to guess or use his sensing ability to detect the aura of the person. He could tell who it was. "Are you still not sleeping?" Hearing Noah's greeting without turning his head, Aoko's footsteps paused, but then she recovered and came behind Noah. Looking at the quilt on Yoju's body, she curled her lips. "You really don't know how to learn." Aoko was naturally referring to the first time Noah saw Yuju sleeping here. At that time, Aoko also warned Noah, letting Noah know that Yuju also cared about the opposite sex seeing her sleeping posture. Now, Aoko was also referring to the time when Yoju's sleeping posture was seen by Noah. What's wrong with that? Noah turned around and sat down directly beside the sleeping Yuju. Leaning against the stove, he raised his head and looked at Aoko's beautiful face under the moonlight and smiled. Even if she finds out, given Yoju's personality, she'll just sulk for a few days. At most, she'll fight. I don't mind accompanying her. Only a guy like you, who can even defeat and subdue a fantasy breed mutant, can say such words. I don't want to see Yuju planning an all-out war over such a small matter, Aoko said slowly and sat down beside Noah. A man and two women leaned against the stove that didn't work at all. One was covered with a quilt and sleeping soundly, while the other two raised their heads at the same time and stared at the moonlight sprinkling through the skylight. For a while, no one spoke. Not long after, Aoko was the first to break the silence. "Do you plan to leave tomorrow?" Noah wasn't the slightest bit surprised that Aoko had seen through his plan, and he nodded in response. Your injuries have healed, and your sister's matter has come to an end. Not only did I find what I was looking for, but I also have a powerful familiar. Although it's a pity that Avalon is missing, I can't delay my business because of this. I still have to go on my next journey. Aoko's pale eyes began to flicker as she stared at the moonlight. So, you've traveled to many places? A lot, I guess. Thinking back to the past, Noah couldn't help but smile. I've been to places where monsters are everywhere and where humans are in a precarious situation. I also went to a school that studied strange powers. Just thinking about it makes me feel nostalgic. Aoko seemed to be interested. She turned her head, faced Noah, and asked curiously, I didn't expect the places you've been to be quite interesting. In such a special environment, did you do anything meaningful? Yes. Noah was pulled into his memories by Aoko's question and quietly began to tell his story. In that place where monsters are everywhere, although humans are in a precarious situation, they are extremely resistant to a group of children who can compete with those monsters. I built a shelter there and took in those children. I also fought with the adults many times. Bully children? What kind of ability is that? Aoko frowned her beautiful eyebrows, then continued to ask with interest. And then? Then, in the school that studied strange powers, I also met a group of companions, but the theme there was combat skills, so I had the opportunity to duel with my companions every day. Speaking of this, Noah couldn't help but laugh. However, the teacher there once tried to hurt my companions, so I fought with the teacher there and defeated her. Fought with the teacher? And then? Is there anything else interesting? Anything else? Noah and Aoko, who were immersed in interesting topics, didn't see that on the side. Yoju's eyelids began to tremble. Chapter 350. In the hall under the moonlight, the girl leaning against the stove was immersed in the topic of the boy beside her. When she heard something interesting, she would show obvious curiosity, and when she heard something she was dissatisfied with, she would show obvious anger. At this moment, the magician, the student council president, the battle of fate, and the inescapable path seemed to have nothing to do with Aoko. Aoko was like an ordinary girl. Happy. Angry. Sad. Happy. She did not hide it at all. You've been to a lot of interesting places. Aoko said with some envy. I haven't been to a place too far away until now. I originally planned to go to a high school far away, but because of the matter of inheriting the Aoko family, I really want to look around. Don't make it sound like you're going to be imprisoned here for the rest of your life. You're just at the stage of learning magic, and you're not mature enough yet. That's why you have to continue staying here, Noah suggested nonchalantly. When your magic is mature, you can also look around. That's true. Aoko smiled sweetly. Anyway, with Yuju here, I'll let Yuju worry about the spirit vein in Sano City. When the time comes, I'll travel around and see the interesting places in this world like you. Aoko did not know that the places mentioned by Noah were in other worlds and did not exist in this world. However, there were also many places in this world with strange forces and chaotic gods, and there were many parallel worlds. Although there were no existences like the Black Bullet and Absolute Dual Blades, there were certainly similar places. For example, there were monsters everywhere, and the situation of human beings was precarious. For example, there was an underground school that studied inexplicable forces, and there were students from the outside who were used as experimental subjects in the school. These places definitely had similar existences in this world. If Aoko really planned to travel, then in the future, she would definitely see wonderful things that were not inferior to Noah's in other worlds. And Noah naturally did not know that Aoko would really travel in the future. Because of the conversation tonight. However, now, there were also people who opposed Aoko's decision. Why are you going on a trip, Qingzi, while I have to stay behind to look after the spirit vein in Sanliang City? Yuju could no longer pretend to be asleep. She opened her dark eyes and stared at Aoko Aozaki, who was on the other side of Noah, with obvious dissatisfaction. Sano City's spirit vein originally belonged to your Aozaki family. So you're awake? Aoko was taken aback for a moment before she smiled awkwardly. Well, there's nothing bad about it. Yuju, you're not the kind of person who would wander around anyway. Besides, you don't want to give up this mansion, right? That's another matter. Yuju unhurriedly said these words. She got up slightly and the blanket covering her body slid down. Seeing this, it was Yuju's turn to be stunned. However, she did not say anything. She only tightened the blanket in her hands and shrunk her petite body into it. Yuju knew that Aoko Aozaki would not do such a considerate thing. Moreover, this mansion was Yuju's territory. It was also the gathering point of the spirit vein in Sanliang City. Yuju had countless ways to protect herself from the cold. Knowing this, Aoko Aozaki would not have covered Yuju with a blanket for no reason. Therefore, this blanket could only have been covered by another person. However, Yuju did not say anything about this. She only hugged the blanket and looked at Noah. Where do you plan to go next? Me? Noah pondered for a moment before he gave this answer. I'll probably go home first. Go home? Aozaki Orange and Yuju looked at each other. They seemed to be surprised that Noah, who had been reminiscing about his journey with a nostalgic tone, would suddenly mention going home. After all, for magicians like Aozaki Aoko and Yuju, the concept of home was not as hard as Noah's. Even Yuju, who placed great importance on the mansion, was the same. However, Noah was different. Although Noah really wanted to continue with the world fragment recovery, it had indeed been a long time since he had been home. 2 years. For 2 whole years, Noah had not been home. With the experience of training outside for 4 whole years, not being home for 2 years was not a big deal for Noah. However, the fateful duel between Aozaki Aoko and Aozaki Orange made Noah miss home. Therefore, this time, Noah wanted to go home and see his lovely family. Oh, right. Noah suddenly remembered something. How about we take a picture together? Take a picture? Aozaki Aoko and Yuju were stunned again. Ignoring Aozaki Aoko and Yuju, Noah took out a mobile phone from his pocket. What's this? Aozaki Aoko looked at the mobile phone in Noah's hand and asked in confusion. Could it be some kind of noble artifact? This is not a noble artifact, Noah said helplessly. It's just an ordinary mobile phone. Mobile phone? Aozaki Aoko was surprised. This is a mobile phone? Not to mention Aozaki Aoko, even Yuju was a little surprised. It was not that Aozaki Aoko and Yuju had never seen a mobile phone before, but the mobile phone in Noah's hand was a little beyond their understanding. Not only did it have no buttons, but the entire surface was also a screen. For this small town in the countryside where mobile phones and the internet had not really begun to develop, this type of mobile phone had not been born yet. At least, Aozaki Aoko and Yuju's impression of mobile phones was still at the point where they were palm-sized, with buttons and a cover. I brought this from the place I told you about earlier. It's filled with monsters. Noah did not explain much. He just stood up and went to the front. After setting the mobile phone to automatic photo mode, he quickly went back to Aozaki Aoko and Yuju and sat down. I specially chose a mobile phone with outstanding photo functions. The pixels are good, and there are many photos of the friends I met on the journey. Come and take a picture with me. Aozaki Aoko and Yuju did not seem to be able to react. For a moment, they panicked and did not know what to do. Really? Noah smiled bitterly, reached out his hand, and directly put it around Aozaki Aoko and Yuju's neck, and pulled the 2 girls over. The 3 heads suddenly leaned together. Gotcha dash. In the next second, the sound of the flash and the shutter was heard at the same time. On the screen of the mobile phone, the scene of the smiling Noah, the slightly angry Aozaki Aoko, and the slightly panicked Yuju intimately leaning together was forever fixed on the screen. The next day, Noah did not say goodbye to Aozaki, Aoko and Yuju, and directly left the manor house. Aozaki, Aoko and Yuju did not come to see Noah off. They just stood by the windows of their rooms and watched Noah leave. When Noah returned to Between the Worlds, two young voices vaguely echoed in his heart. The content was like this. May you always be safe. The sun was setting in the west, and the sky was dark. It was going to be night soon. On the road outside a park, a clear voice rang out. Hurry up. If you don't go back, you'll be scolded. Got it. The person who responded to the voice outside the park was a cute little girl with black hair who was still in the park. The little girl was about to run outside, but in the next moment, she inadvertently caught a glimpse of a golden light and stopped in her tracks. Her eyes flashed with confusion and curiosity. She came to a dark corner and pushed aside the grass there. In the next moment, the little girl saw it. Behind the grass, a gorgeous scabbard lay there quietly. The little girl could not help but reach out and touch the gorgeous scabbard. Hum. The scabbard suddenly emitted a bright light, turned into a stream of light, and swept into the little girl's body. The little girl seemed to be startled and quickly touched her body. At this time, the clear voice called out again. I'm ignoring you. Hearing this, the little girl did not care about the fact that the scabbard had inexplicably entered her body. She hurriedly got up and ran outside. Under the setting sun, the two black-haired little girls chased each other, laughing and playing on the road while trotting into the distance. After a while, they disappeared into the horizon. If Noah was here, he would be very surprised to find out. The scabbard not only disappeared into another space, but also coincidentally arrived at another time. Chapter 351. Coo 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 coo. This was the cry of a seagull. Walala. This was the sound of clear water flowing in a small river. Gagga. This was the strange roar of an unknown beast hidden in the lush forest. Who? This was the whistling sound of the sea breeze that came from the boundless ocean, bringing with it a sense of nostalgia. In this boundless ocean, in an unknown corner, there seemed to be two islands, one big and one small, overlapping each other. This strange island exuded a tranquil aura for 10 years, giving people the feeling of a paradise. Against the whistling sea breeze, the hem of his coat fluttering, Noah stood on the edge of Heavenly Wolf Island, looking at the endless ocean, breathing in the familiar air, his dark and deep eyes blooming with an unprecedented feeling of infatuation. I'm back, back. Yes. Back. After 2 years, Noah finally returned to his own world. The familiar magic pervaded Heavenly Wolf Island. The familiar air brought by the sea breeze. Everything in his field of vision was a familiar scene. The heart in his heart that was constantly jumping for joy and excitement for this world. All of this seemed to be welcoming Noah's return, instantly enveloping Noah's whole body, giving Noah a peace of mind that he had not felt in these 2 years. Whether it was in the world of The Dark Bullet, the world of Absolute Dual Blades, or even the world of Night of the Spellcaster, Noah, who had been to these 3 worlds, had never felt as peaceful as he did in this world. Not because of anything else. Only because this world was Noah's cradle, the home where Noah spent a long time, the home where he grew up. And in the 3 worlds that he had been to before, although in the end, Noah had his own place to go, for Noah, those places were ultimately just places to stay on the journey. For Noah, the only real home was in this world. Because, only in this world, Noah did not need to adapt to everything. Only in this world, Noah was truly familiar with everything. As for the other 3 worlds that he had been to before, even though Noah was familiar with them in the end, they were still the same at the beginning, unfamiliar to him. Noah raised his head and looked at a certain direction in the sea. He seemed to be able to see Magnolia, which was far away from his field of vision. It was as if he could see the fairy tale guild. His heart was touched. I wonder how grandfather is doing now. Is his body okay? Are Alusha, Mira, and Lisanna doing well? Are Naz and Gray still fighting as much as before? Noah felt that his heart had already flown back to fairy tale ahead of time. He also felt that he couldn't stay in fairy tale's holy land, Fairy Wolf Island, for even a moment longer. Right now, he wanted to return to the guild immediately. However, thinking that he still had business to attend to, Noah suppressed the restlessness in his heart. Before that, I still have to do an experiment. Taking a deep breath, Noah suppressed his surging heart from returning to the world of fairy tale, and stretched out his hand towards the ocean. Collect. Cast, projection. When the simple chant burst out from Noah's mouth, a dazzling phosphorescent light rose from Noah's arm. A mysterious and intricate magic square rotated and spread out in front of Noah's open palm towards the ocean. Suddenly, a large amount of magic erupted from it. Bang, 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 bang. In the next moment, on the intricate geometrical magic array, the substantial magic power turned into blue flashes of light. Like cannonballs that carried the force of thousands of kilograms, they shot out explosively amidst the dull sounds of impact. They rubbed against the air, pierced through the sky, and landed on the surface of the sea. Bang, 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 bang. Along with the continuous echoes of the explosion, on the surface of the ocean that was hit by the magic bullet, bursts of waves exploded like water pillars, stirring up countless splashes, scattering in all directions, scaring the seagulls in the air and causing them to flee. But unlike the seagulls that fled in panic, in the forest behind Noah, the monsters that felt the movement and the magic aura began to move in this direction. Ignoring the movements around him, Noah looked at the ocean that was turned upside down by his magic bullet, and couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. I thought that after leaving that world, I wouldn't be able to use magic anymore. This worry was not unnecessary. One of the conditions for using magic was to come into contact with the magic base plate, engraved in the world, using one's own magic to activate the magic pattern engraved on the magic base plate. Now, Noah had already left the world of Night of the Magicians, and returned to the world of fairy tale. And in this world, there was no such thing as a magic base plate. Before returning, Noah didn't know whether he would be unable to use magic because he couldn't come into contact with the magic base plate when he went to another world. But now, it seemed that even if he left the world of Night of the Magicians, he could still come into contact with the magic base plate. Of course, Noah didn't know that he was the only one who could do this. Because Noah didn't come into contact with the magic base plate himself, but the world took the initiative to help Noah come into contact with the magic base plate. If it was another magician who went to another world, even if they had the ability to go against the heavens, there would be no way for them to come into contact with the magic base plate in another world. Only Noah, even if he went to another world, the world would continue to care for him and continue to help him build a bridge to come into contact with the magic base plate, so that Noah could use magic without being affected at all. After knowing that his magic could still be used, Noah was completely relieved. He used the limit ability again and slowly sealed his magic, causing his power to fall into a state of self-growth, constantly improving his strength. As the number of times he used the limit ability increased, Noah's mastery of the limit ability also became higher and higher. Right now, Noah only needed a single thought to remove the restricted powers, and it didn't even take an instant for him to succeed. Furthermore, it was the kind of power that he could freely control. He could remove as much power as he wanted, and seal as much power as he wanted. Therefore, now, as long as it wasn't time to fight, Noah would seal all the power in his body with the limit ability and let it enter a state of self-growth. When it was time to fight, he would extract the desired level of power according to the situation. It was extremely convenient. Moreover, Noah also discovered that Bio, who had fused with him, could also use the limit ability and enter a state of self-growth. In other words, in the future, Bio's power would be the same as Noah's, increasing with time. It could even increase with the increase in power of its host, Noah. Bio's power would also increase at the same time as Noah's in the future. It was almost impossible for him to be left behind by Noah. After confirming this, Noah was completely relieved. Looking at the vast ocean in front of him, he smiled excitedly. In short, let's build a boat first. In less than 10 minutes, Noah finished building a small boat. Taking the boat, he left Sirius Island. After Noah left Sirius Island, on a tree, a petite figure appeared out of thin air. Her long hair swayed as she looked in the direction of Noah's departure, making a clear voice like a silver bell. See you next time. As soon as he left Sirius Island, Noah found that he had made a mistake. The sea was vast, and Noah didn't know how to get to Magnolia. Noah, who was a little hot-headed because of returning here, finally calmed down. He secretly regretted his carelessness. I won't just float to another continent like this, right? This thought, after floating aimlessly for a whole hour, made Noah even more uneasy. I have to think of a way. Fortunately, the world favored Noah. Just as Noah was about to find another way, a ship appeared in Noah's vision. No. To be more precise, it should be a pirate ship. Noah's eyes lit up. Chapter 352. Facing the sea breeze, the pirate ship passed directly in front of Noah. Along the way, the waves rolled and almost reached Noah's side. The pirate ship apparently didn't find Noah's existence and drove directly in front of Noah without stopping in the middle. Noah originally wanted to shout, but when his sensing ability extended to the top of the pirate ship, several familiar breaths came from above, which made Noah directly stunned. Then he was a little happy, and some of them didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Is there such a coincidence? Saying such a sentence, Noah had a big smile on his face, his eyes turned, and a plan appeared in his mind. Let's say a little exaggerated greeting. After that, Noah put on the hat that was connected to his coat, covering his nose. Like a gorgeous brilliance gathered under his feet, a vortex-like halo of airflow shrouded the bottom of Noah's feet. Bang! The vortex-like halo of airflow gathered under the bottom of Noah's feet suddenly burst, turning into a substantial impact, and the fragile boat collapsed into pieces. Chi! Noah, who used the leap technique, turned into a stream of light, cutting through the sky, like a cannonball soaring into the sky, and flew toward the pirate ship. After a while, he landed on the edge of the pirate ship. Who? The group of pirates who heard the strange sound were shocked, and after they reacted, they all pulled out the weapons they wore and pointed in the direction of Noah. Being pointed at by a group of fierce pirates with weapons, Noah didn't even look at them. Instead, he looked ahead with a flash of light in his eyes. Hey! In the direction of Noah's eyes, a very plump girl with waist-length blonde hair, about 17 or 18 years old, seemed to have noticed the abnormality here and was surprised. What's wrong? What happened? Beside the girl, there was a heroic girl with a head of eye-catching crimson hair. She wore an ice-cold armor on the upper half of her body and a blue pleated skirt on the lower half of her body. She turned her dignified eyes in Noah's direction and frowned. Who is that? In addition to these two girls, 2 teenagers are also in that direction. No. It should be said that there are 2 teenagers and a cat with wings floating in the air. Among them, a black-haired young man violently tugged at his clothes as he stared at Noah with a puzzled expression. Who is that? Woo. The cat with wings looked at Noah and hid behind Alusha after a second. It feels like there will be a fight again, Alusha, you have to protect me. The only one left was a young man with rare cherry-like hair. However, this cherry-haired teenager seemed to be seasick at this time. He was lying on the edge of the bed with a pale face. He looked like he wanted to vomit but couldn't, which made the people next to him feel uncomfortable. In addition to the girl with waist-length blonde hair, whether it was the girl in the armor, the 2 teenagers, or even the cat suspended in the air, they were all Noah's acquaintances. They were Alusha, Naz, Gray, and Hubby. After 2 years, except for Hubby's body shape and appearance, Alusha, Naz, and Gray didn't change much, but the aura on their bodies was much stronger than 2 years ago, which told Noah that he wasn't the only one who had grown. It was because he noticed the aura of Alusha and others that Noah behaved like that. Suppressing the excitement in his heart, Noah jumped down from the edge of the ship and slowly walked forward. A group of ferocious pirates wanted to do something, but they seemed to be keenly aware of Noah's momentum. As Noah approached, they began to retreat. For a while, no one could say a word. Of course, Noah's goal was not them, but his childhood playmates. The golden-haired girl, who was the only one that Noah didn't know, looked at the menacing Noah and took a step back timidly. "Are you really here to fight?" "Hey!" Gray stepped forward and cast his eyes on Noah with a bad look. "Although I don't know who you are, well, who you are has nothing to do with us, but you'd better tell us your purpose." Hearing this, Noah's mouth slowly rose and he suddenly spoke. "I should be the one to say this." Everyone on the ship was stunned. Among them, Elisha and Gray both looked at each other strangely. It feels like this voice is a bit familiar. Without giving Elisha and Gray too much time to think, Noah said such a sentence in front of the whole ship. "Although I don't know who you are, since you are with this group of pirates, it is the scope of my commission. I will destroy you together." "Annihilate?" The surrounding pirates were shocked. "Commission?" Elisha keenly grasped a key word in Noah's words and said, "Are you a magic shooter from the Magic Guide Guild who took the commission to destroy the pirates?" Wait. Hearing Elisha's words, the blonde girl quickly spoke. "We are not pirates. We are just guests who happen to be on this ship." Yes. Hobbit nodded repeatedly. "If you want to catch you, just catch Lucy. She must be guilty." "What are you talking about?" "Useless cat." The blonde girl named Lucy yelled out frantically. "Since you are a member of the Magic Guide Guild, you should have heard of fairy tale, right?" Gray didn't seem to let go of his hostility towards Noah and stared closely at Noah. "We are magic shooters from fairy tale, can you please leave?" "You are magic shooters from fairy tale?" Noah pretended to be surprised and deliberately hesitated for a moment, then nodded after a while. "In that case, please stay aside and don't interfere. I will be done here soon." "Big sister." The surrounding pirates suddenly panicked and looked at Elisha for help. Elisha's beautiful eyebrows furrowed more and more tightly. She reached out her hand and the surrounding pirates immediately hissed. Seeing this scene, Noah couldn't help but laugh. This Elisha is still as unconventional as before. She actually tamed a group of pirates and made a group of pirates follow her lead. However, Noah had already seen this point, otherwise, he wouldn't have deliberately said such words. "Because of a special reason, I have to protect them." Elisha stepped forward and said in an unquestionable tone. "So, I'm sorry, but please let these people go." At this moment, Elisha didn't hold back at all and released her powerful aura. If it was an ordinary magic shooter who heard the name of a fairy tale and realized that Elisha was not simple, they would definitely not be willing to take advantage of a small task. However, Noah, who already knew about Elisha's strength, continued to walk forward calmly. "So, you want to hinder me from completing my task?" Elisha frowned again. "We don't mean that, don't talk nonsense." Noah interrupted Elisha's words. "Since you intend to hinder me from completing my task, then I will destroy you all together." "You bastard." Gray tore open his clothes and revealed his upper body with an impatient look on his face. "Simply put, you are here to fight, right? Then let me directly send you flying." After saying this, Gray fiercely stepped on the deck and rushed out. He clenched his fist and with a sharp wind sound, he fiercely punched in the direction of Noah. Paw dash. Unfortunately, Noah only raised his hand gently to receive Gray's punch, which he was determined to win. With a crisp sound, Noah effortlessly received the punch with his palm. Wadash. Gray's face finally changed. At this moment, Noah pulled Gray's hand and threw him to the deck next to him. Bang dash. Goo dash. Gray, who was on his back, spat out all the air in his chest and almost suffocated. Elisha, Lucy, and Haby turned pale with fright at the same time. Gray was actually restrained in one move. Chapter 353. Even in Fairy Tale, which was now the #1 guild in the kingdom of Fiori, Gray's strength was at the top. In Fairy Tale, If those S-rank archmages and above were excluded, then Gray was definitely qualified to compete for the position of the strongest archmage in Fairy Tale. In the Fairy Tale Guild, the only people who could match Gray, other than those S-ranked magic shooters, were Naz and a few other people who had a way to deal with him. But now, such a character had been subdued by a high mage from an unknown guild? Not to mention Lucy and Hubby, even Alusha was extremely surprised. Only Naz, who was still seasick, twitched his nose a few times, then his eyes lit up and his face showed excitement. He wanted to say something, but his dizzy head immediately made his body softly fall down, and he couldn't say anything. On the other side, Gray, who was fiercely thrown to the ground by Noah, felt some pain from his back. He looked at Noah, who was standing there condescendingly, and jumped up. After a few jumps, he pulled away from Noah and stared at the opposite side as if facing a great enemy. "Who are you?" "Me?" Noah shrugged. "I'm a archmage who came to destroy the pirates." "I'm not asking about your identity," Gray said in a deep voice. "I'm asking you, what's your name?" "Name?" Noah suddenly looked at Gray playfully. "I'll tell you later, after you lose." "Is that so?" Gray closed his eyes, straightened his body, and slowly raised his hands. A faint white mist quickly circulated around his body, causing the surrounding temperature to drop a little. Seeing this, Noah raised his eyebrows. "Ice shape magic?" The so-called shape magic referred to the magic that used magic and gave it a certain shape. At the same time, it was also the magic that took the shape. Among the many magic in this world, shape magic could be said to be a relatively common magic, and it was very free magic. The shape of the magic created by each archmage was different, and it was the magic that could best show the user's personality. It was also a kind of free magic that completely relied on the archmage's own ability. Moreover, there were also various attributes in these modeling spells. The shape magic that Gray used was the ice shape magic, which was the magic that turned magic into ice and freely gave it the shape of ice. From a young age, Gray began to hone this magic. 10 years had been like a day, and he never neglected it. Noah naturally couldn't not recognize Gray's magic. However, the last time Noah saw Gray's magic, it was a long time ago. Now, Gray's ice-shape magic seemed to have fully matured, and could even faintly affect the surrounding environment. Obviously, it was much stronger than the last time Noah saw it. "Since you don't intend to say, then I won't be polite with you anymore." After a moment of silence, Gray's feet fiercely stomped on the ground, and his figure directly rushed toward Noah, who was close at hand. As he rushed, his hands bent, and cold air emerged from his hands that and the vibration of the air, the white mist-like cold air gathered in Gray's hands. After a while, it turned into 2 huge ice swords, which were tightly grasped by Gray. When he was only half a meter away from Noah, Gray's figure suddenly stopped, and the ice swords in his hands drew a tricky arc, like a bird spreading its wings, directly cutting through Noah's body. Ice magic sword. Feeling the incoming cold light and low temperature, Noah's face carried a smile. He unhurriedly raised his hands, clenched his fists, and pulled them to his waist, then suddenly swung out. Dong! As Noah swung his fist, a gust of wind turned into a huge pushing force, as if an invisible fist flashed through the air. When Gray's face changed, it fell on Gray's body like a heavy hammer. Pung! Gray hurriedly raised the 2 ice swords in his hands, but the 2 ice swords simply exploded under the violent impact. During this period of time, the impact caused Gray to hurriedly retreat more than 10 steps, and then somewhat awkwardly stop his body. "Liar," Lucy said in shock. "Gray has already used magic, and he still isn't a match." "I didn't feel any magic." Alusha's face also became dignified. "That wasn't his magic, it was just a simple punch, but that punch was so heavy that it could create a shockwave. So powerful. Which guild has an expert in this kind of physical skill?" "Never heard of it." "Damn it." Gray angrily glared at Noah. One of his hands formed a fist, and supported it with the palm of his other hand. The cold air rapidly condensed, and with an intense low temperature, fiercely smashed on the deck. "Ice spring." A huge amount of magic suddenly burst out from Gray's hand that landed on the ground, and flowed below the deck at an astonishing speed. Noah could clearly feel that the magic that burst out from Gray's body was condensing under his feet like lightning. Without the slightest hesitation, Noah suddenly tapped the ground, and quickly retreated. Caw 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 caw. In the next moment, a sound that made one's teeth ache resounded below Noah's original position. Sharp icicles, like a fountain, soared into the sky, and turned into an ice tower. Pung! Just as the icicles that gushed out like a fountain turned into an ice tower, Noah abruptly stopped his retreat. His body arched, and like a lone wolf that was ready to strike, he madly rushed out like an arrow leaving the bow, and instantly arrived in front of Gray. Immediately, Noah very casually threw a punch, and in the midst of the sound of breaking air, it smashed into Gray's abdomen. Pung! With a muffled sound, Gray's eyes bulged, and he clutched his abdomen, and repeatedly retreated. His gaze towards Noah became angry. "You despicable guy. What? Still want to fight?" Noah raised his fist, and said such a provocative sentence. "You're not my opponent, it's better to find someone else." "You really dare to say that?" Gray was not a good-tempered person, and after being provoked by Noah, he immediately wanted to rush over. However, when Gray was about to rush out, a hand pressed heavily on his shoulder. That was Elisha's hand. "Stop," Elisha said calmly. "He didn't want to be serious with you, otherwise you would have been defeated." Gray instinctively wanted to refute, but when he saw Elisha's stern expression, the anger in his heart subsided little by little, and he regained his calmness. "What?" Noah looked straight at Elisha, his childhood sweetheart, and smiled. "Next, will you be my opponent?" As soon as this sentence came out, Noah found that Gray, Lucy, and hubby looked at him as if he was an unlucky child, which made Noah very speechless. However, Noah also understood that this was because Gray and the other two knew of Elisha's strength, which was why they were behaving like this. Unlike Gray, Elisha is a real powerhouse. After all, Elisha is an S-level mage from Fairy Tale. Moreover, 4 years ago, when he was only 15 years old, he was a true powerhouse who had become an S-rank magic shooter. "If you want, I don't mind fighting." Elisha came to the opposite of Noah in the sound of powerful footsteps. "But, if I win against you, you must promise me to give up your commission and not to fight against these pirates again." Hearing this, Noah laughed, and he laughed excitedly. "Let's talk about it after you win against me." This time, Elisha did not talk nonsense. A dazzling light suddenly covered Elisha's whole body, and Elisha's magic power suddenly skyrocketed. After a moment, the strong light subsided, and a gorgeous armor that seemed to be cast with a piece of steel blade and 2 pairs of steel wings appeared on Elisha's exquisite body. The curvaceous figure was wrapped in tight armor, and only the chest was covered on the upper body, while the lower body was covered by a steel armor battle skirt. Elisha's whole body was full of heroic spirit, and she immediately attracted the attention of everyone around her. Looking at the armor on Elisha's body, Noah's eyes lit up. Because it was a set of magic armor. Chapter 354. The vigorous magic power in his body surged like a river. Elisha slightly raised her eyes, her body slightly paused, and then her foot suddenly tapped the ground. Her body turned into a ray of light, and under the watchful eyes of the crowd, she took the initiative to attack Noah. The distance between the two was only a dozen meters. With Elisha's speed, it would only take a few seconds to close the distance. Thus, Elisha's figure flashed and entered the attack range. 2 knights' swords suddenly appeared in her hands. With a swing of the swords, like a viper coming out of its hole, they brought along a sharp gust of wind as they viciously stabbed towards Noah's chest. Once she made her move, she used all her strength. Looking at the tip of the sword that was constantly enlarging in his pupils, Noah's body tensed up, and his heart roared excitedly. Before he started learning magic, Noah had trained with Elisha through battle after battle. Together with Elisha, he was able to train his sword skills that could be called strength. After a few years, his childhood sweetheart was already an S-rank archmage. She was many times more powerful than before, but still, Noah's memories and sense of familiarity were awakened. Elisha had already become a true powerhouse, and was no longer the child from before. And Noah, compared to before, was dozens or hundreds of times stronger. The two once again met, once again dueled. It made Noah's emotions surge. When the knight's sword that was flickering with cold light was about to reach his chest, he finally made a move. Pang! A dazzling vortex of air condensed under Noah's feet, and then completely exploded. Noah, who had used leap, suddenly retreated, easily dodging Elisha's fierce attack. Ha! Being dodged by Noah, Elisha was not surprised in the slightest. With a move of her hand, 5 knight's swords appeared in front of Elisha in the blink of an eye. Under Elisha's light shout, the swords turned into streaks of cold light, and with a sharp sound of wind breaking, they shot towards Noah like lightning. The 5 knight's swords penetrated the obstruction of the air, and appeared in front of Noah in a flash. Suddenly, they trembled, and suddenly separated, shooting towards 5 parts of Noah's body. The fierce wind brought about by the rapid shooting made Noah slightly narrowed his eyes. So fast. Even Noah was amazed by the speed of the knight's swords, but he was not surprised. Pang! Under his feet, the dazzling vortex of air once again exploded. Following the sound of the explosion, Noah's body turned into a black afterimage. Bending his body, he allowed the 5 knight's swords to brush past his body, shooting behind him. His body, almost touching the ground, flashed forward, and rushed towards Elisha's direction. Whoosh! With both hands on the ground, and both feet containing a fierce force, Noah's feet were like 2 heavy blunt weapons, fiercely smashing towards Elisha. Elisha's face turned cold, and with a twist of her waist, her body suddenly floated into the air, directly flying into the air, and out of Noah's attack range. Whoosh! With the momentum of shaking the air, Noah's feet landed at the position where Elisha was a second ago. And at this moment, without the slightest hesitation, Elisha, who was floating in the air, suddenly shook the knight's sword in her hand. Her body turned into a phantom, and swooped down, cutting towards Noah's legs like lightning. Feeling the cold chill approaching his legs, Noah's body once again turned, and with a push of his hand on the ground, he directly flew into the air like a cannonball. One of his feet carried a fierce force, and heavily kicked the armor in front of Elisha's chest. Pang! The sudden attack directly kicked Elisha, who did not have time to react, back quite a distance. Her body, which had just swooped down, was sent flying back into the air. This kick seemed to be merciless. However, Elisha was protected by armor, and because of this, Noah specifically chose to attack the armor. Therefore, Noah's attack this time, other than breaking Elisha's attack, did not cause any harm to Elisha. Regarding this, Noah's heart was very clear, and he did not want to cause much harm to Elisha. Therefore, when Elisha flew back into the air, Noah landed on the ground. Pang! The whirlpool-like airflow under Noah's feet exploded, and the violent impact directly shattered the hard deck. Noah's body turned into a stream of light, like a ghost, swept into the air, and approached Elisha's body. Elisha finally showed a shocked expression, as if she did not expect Noah to directly rush into the air. And at this moment, Noah's violent attacks began to unfold. Without using magic, without using weapons, Noah's physical strength and combat skills were displayed to the limit. At this moment, every part of Noah's body became a sharp weapon to attack Elisha. As he waved his arms, the vigorous power caused the surrounding space to resonate with continuous sonic booms, turning into a storm, enveloping Elisha. Facing Noah's incomparably powerful close combat attacks, although Elisha was shocked, she did not panic, and did not show any signs of weakness. Relying on the mobility of the flying ability of the armor, she repeatedly waved the knight's sword in her hand, turning into a beautiful sword dance, and similarly enveloped Noah. In an instant, the battle entered a white-hot stage. In the air, Noah continuously used the leap forward technique, as if he directly stepped on the air, and continuously approached Elisha. Elisha also relied on the wings attached to her armor to fly in the air, and began a wonderful close combat with Noah. Bang 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 bang. This was the sound of Noah's punches and kicks, and the sound of the impact when they fell on Alusha's armor. Ding 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 ding. This was the sound of Alusha's sword dance and Noah's fist colliding with each other. Dong 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 dong. At this time, the sound of the collision between the two and Noah's leap forward caused explosions in the air. The strong collision lingered in the air for a long time. Hey, 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 hey. On the ship, Gray's face was completely filled with disbelief as he watched the fierce battle in midair. What's going on? I've never heard of such a strong guy. Naz, I'm so scared. Habi tearfully shook Naz, who was lying on the ground with his eyes turned white. What if that guy wants to take my fish? No, it shouldn't be the problem of the fish now, right? Lucy complained, but there was also shock in her eyes. Even Alusha can't do anything, who is it? The pirates on the ship had already held their breath, and their eyes moved with the flashing of the two figures moving at high speed in midair. The increasingly fierce and white-hot battle made the hearts of these pirates in their throats. Although, with their ability, they can't see what's going on, but these pirates can still see the fierceness of the battle. Seeing that Noah didn't have the slightest tendency to fall, a group of pirates can only pray desperately that Alusha doesn't lose, otherwise, they will be wiped out. Bang! In midair, a man and a woman's figure crossed each other again, and with a collision sound, each of them flew down and landed on the deck, retreating a dozen steps. After a while, Noah and Alusha, who were retreating, stopped, and the figures of the two once again appeared clearly under everyone's gaze. Seeing the current appearance of Noah and Alusha, everyone was stunned. At this time, Noah's coat had crisscrossed cracks, and under the cracks, a trace of red blood could be seen faintly. Obviously, in the previous crazy close combat, Noah was not completely unaffected by Alusha's counterattack. Noah's appearance was not good-looking, and Alusha also lost her composure. The originally holy armor not only became extremely messy, but on the cold, hard armor, fist prints and footprints also appeared clearly on it. Alusha's beautiful crimson hair also looked a little messy, and her breathing was also very rapid. It seems that in the previous fierce battle, whether it was Noah or Alusha, both had their own tricks, and no one could really gain the upper hand. Of course, no one will underestimate these two people. Chapter 355. The entire place suddenly fell silent. Looking at the man and woman confronting each other in the middle of the deck, everyone couldn't help but swallow a mouthful of saliva due to the oppressive and solemn atmosphere. The more timid Lucy and hubby even hugged each other tightly with faces full of nervousness. In the middle of the battlefield, Noah lowered his head and glanced at his tattered coat and clothes as well as his slightly aching body. He couldn't help but let out a wry smile. This Alusha is still the same as before. She either doesn't get serious, or she definitely doesn't show any mercy when she gets serious. Who knows how many wounds she inflicted on Noah's body. Although these injuries were healed in less than a moment under the regenerative ability derived from the strengthening of the protozoan virus, injuries were inevitable in a duel, but if it weren't for the fact that Noah and Alusha didn't have the intention to kill, the two of them definitely wouldn't have ended up like this. For example, if Noah didn't hold back, then the place where his fists and feet hit would not be the armor on Alusha's body. Instead, he would specifically choose the head and the weak parts without armor to attack. Another example was that since Alusha could slash so many times on Noah's body with her sword, it definitely wouldn't be a problem for her to cut deeper with her sword. By then, Noah wouldn't just have small wounds on his body, but huge, hideous, and bloody wounds. Besides, both sides had made a lot of concessions in this duel. Take Noah for example. He only used his physical abilities and close combat to the limit. He didn't use any magic, or weapons at all. Not to mention half of his strength, he didn't even use 30% of it. Alusha also only used the equipment-changing spell once from the beginning to the end. Later on, she relied purely on her sword skills and the ability of the magical armor on her body. It should be known that the biggest advantage of the equipment-changing magic was that it could change the equipment according to the situation of the battle. Those truly powerful magic shooters who used the equipment-changing magic would generally prepare equipment in their own changing space to deal with various situations. Therefore, Alusha could not only use the armor on her body and the knight's sword in her hand. Alusha definitely had equipment that was more suitable for combat and was even more powerful. Therefore, Alusha would not be able to unleash much of her strength. At most, she would only be able to unleash 70 to 80% of her strength. Whether it was Noah or Alusha, both understood that the other party had yet to reveal his true strength. Under such circumstances, although Alusha's expression was solemn, her eyes were filled with undisguised admiration. What an amazing martial skill! It is my honor to be able to compete with someone who possesses such a martial skill. Hearing this, Noah could not help but laugh. Really? Why haven't I heard you say something like that before? Before? Alusha was slightly taken aback. Before? Gray, Lucy, and hubby were also taken aback and looked at each other. Only then did Noah realize that he had slipped out of his mouth. He laughed bitterly. It seems that we can only stop here. Hearing this, the shrewd Alusha finally realized that something was wrong. Do we know each other before? Know each other? Noah said with a dumbfounded expression. We have slept together and bathed together. Do you think we know each other? Slept together? Alusha was surprised. Bathed together? Gray, Lucy, and hubby were shocked. Seeing this, Noah shook his head and smiled. He reached out and took off the hat on his head. Looking at the completely stunned Alusha, Gray, and hubby, he laughed heartily. Long time no see, Alusha, Gray, hubby, it's great to see you so energetic. Noah? The expression on Alusha's pretty face was all replaced by joy. It's Noah. Hubby also cheered. Noah. Gray was even more overjoyed. He rushed over and gave Noah a big bear hug. It turned out to be you. I was wondering how someone could be so strong that even Alusha was almost defeated. You really know how to hide it. Haha. Noah couldn't help but return Gray's hug. After feeling Gray's heartfelt joy, he was also very happy. After all, in Fairy Tale, in addition to Makarov, the first one to have a good relationship with Noah was Gray. Among the many partners, Noah and Gray have known each other the longest, and it can be said that they have the best relationship, followed by Alusha. Huh? Lucy, the only one who didn't know what was going on, could only stand there blankly, looking a little overwhelmed. Noah? Who is Noah? Noah. Alusha, who had changed into the original upper body armor and pleated skirt, also came over and looked at Noah with a very rare gentle expression. It's been 2 years, we finally meet again. Sorry. Noah let go of Gray and met Alusha's eyes. But at least I didn't come back after another 4 years. That's not bad, right? You guy. Alusha reached out and gave Noah a hug. You didn't say you were going to come back. If everyone in the guild knew that you were coming back, they should be at the port to greet you. Noah smiled and didn't say anything. He hugged Alusha back, immersed in the joy of reuniting with his childhood playmate. Well, although because of the armor, Alusha was still as hard as before when he hugged her. In the end, only the confused Lucy and a group of pirates were left looking at each other, not knowing what to do. After Noah changed his tattered clothes that were cut by Alusha, a group of Fairy Tale companions surrounded him. Noah. Yeah. You're back, Naz, who was paralyzed on the ground, struggled to Noah's feet and grabbed his feet. He seemed to want to say something, but soon he almost vomited because of the nausea that surged in his heart. He couldn't muster any strength. Naz, you should rest well first. We'll talk after we get off the ship. Noah smiled and patted Naz's back, then cast his eyes to Lucy, who looked a little nervous, and asked curiously. I've been wanting to ask since just now. Who are you? That, my name is Lucy. Lucy seemed a little nervous. She looked like a junior in school who could only look at her senior from afar. She was very reserved. I've only recently joined Fairy Tale, Please give me some pointers. So you're a newcomer? Noah nodded in relief. Then it's no wonder I don't know you. Although you're a newcomer, you have a lot of potential. If you're trained well, you'll definitely become an outstanding magic shooter. Elisha patted Lucy's shoulder and whispered to her. Lucy, don't worry too much about Noah. Unlike Naz and Gray, Noah is a very sensible and easygoing person. Just relax a little. Yes, I know. Lucy nodded repeatedly. Speaking of which, you're still as strong as before. Gray crossed his arms and said with a little hot-bloodedness. Well, but since it's you, you must have undergone a lot of training in the past 2 years and have become stronger than before, right? It's indeed an outstanding martial skill. Elisha seemed to approve of Noah's close combat skills. It's impossible to practice such a martial skill without going through a lot of tempering. Noah, you've brought us a big surprise again. You two have also made great progress. I'm not the only one who's growing. Noah scratched his cheek and spread out his hands. We're not children anymore. We've all become stronger. Elisha and Gray nodded in agreement. They smiled at Noah and continued to talk about old times. On the side, Lucy quietly asked Hobby. Hey, Haby, is Noah stronger than Elisha? Elisha is a monster, but Noah is still above her. Haby rarely answered seriously. Noah has very powerful magic. He can compete with Elisha without using magic. So, Noah must be very strong now. Maybe he's even stronger than Elisha. So powerful. Lucy turned her gaze to Noah, who was chatting happily with Elisha and Gray. There was a very obvious curiosity in her beautiful big eyes. Chapter 356. Resurrection. On the port, Naz seemed to be celebrating something. He raised his hands and shouted loudly, attracting all the gazes around him. Noah. Immediately afterward, Naz seemed to remember something. He turned around abruptly and rushed toward Noah, who had just gotten off the ship. Let's settle this once and for all. Before this sentence had time to fall, a fist suddenly appeared above Naz's head. Like a heavy hammer, it fell on Naz's head fiercely. Bang! With a muffled sound, Naz's eyes protruded and his head was smoking. His whole body directly smashed on the ground, causing the ground to crack inch by inch. Noah, who withdrew his fist, passed by Naz, who was lying on the cracked ground, and walked forward expressionlessly. I knew you would do this. Sigh. Haby, who was suspended in the air, spread out his hands. Naz, didn't you see the duel between Noah and Elisha? Naz, you haven't been able to beat Elisha yet. Lucy also said angrily. You still dare to fight with someone who can tie with Elisha without using magic. I really don't know what to say about you. Humph, Gray threw such a sarcastic sentence coldly. What an idiot. As soon as the voice fell, Naz, who got up from the ground, put his head on Gray's head with a ferocious expression. Who are you calling an idiot? Droop your eyes. Gray didn't show any weakness and used his head to push back. He also had a ferocious expression. I'm talking about you. Hang your eyes. At this time, Elisha, who got off the ship, cast her indifferent gaze. What are you doing there? Nothing. Naz and Gray suddenly trembled together. The ferocious expression on their faces disappeared, and they made a standing posture. It seemed that they were scared of Elisha to death. That's good. Elisha nodded in satisfaction. Noah just happened to be back today, so don't cause any more trouble for me. Love. Naz and Gray responded in unison, but the way they responded sounded like hubby's catchphrase, which made Lucy speechless. Noah, who watched this scene unfold, didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I thought that after 2 years, all of you had grown. But in the end, you only grew in strength? You've changed a lot compared to 2 years ago. Elisha looked at Noah, tilted her head, and said in confusion. I feel like the atmosphere around you has changed compared to before. Does Elisha feel the same way? I thought I was the only one who felt that way. Gray scratched his head and looked at Noah with a puzzled expression. It feels like you're more dangerous than before? Hearing the words of Alusha and Gray, Noah just smiled and did not answer. Noah knows why Alusha and Gray feel this way. Because Noah has indeed changed, and the change is not small. In the world of Dark Bullet, he played with the politicians with superb means, and he also saw enough of the dark side of human nature. Coupled with the experience of Absolute Dual Blades and Night of the Mage, Noah has indeed changed compared to 2 years ago. If Noah 2 years ago could only be regarded as an extremely sharp sword that had just been sharpened, then now, Noah's sword has been stained with enough blood and is no longer a simple weapon. This is the so-called experience. This experience made Noah, who was originally more gentle, become stronger, and his heart was much tougher than before. In addition, the current Noah has a real murderous aura compared to 2 years ago. It's no wonder that Gray would say, more dangerous. By the way, Noah, hubby, who flew to Noah's side, glanced at Noah's back and said suspiciously, "Where's your sword?" After hubby said this, Alusha, Naz, and Gray remembered this matter. Of course, the sword is put away. Noah replied perfunctorily. I learned a little trick similar to magic of disguise, which can store weapons in an invisible space. It's not gone, you can rest assured. The group of people was relieved. Well, let's rest in this town for the time being. Ilusa stepped forward and began to give orders as if it was a matter of course. Tomorrow, we'll go back to Magnolia. Understood. Everyone responded in unison. At that moment, Naz leaped to Noah's front and gazed at him in excitement. He displayed a passionate smile on his face. Naz raised a hand, and a hot flame ignited on his fist, illuminating Naz's excited face. Noah, I've become a lot stronger in the past 2 years. Is that so? Noah met Naz's eyes that were filled with excitement. He raised his eyes and suddenly smiled. Then let me tell you, I haven't slacked off in the past 2 years, and I've become a lot stronger than 2 years ago. Didn't we agree at that time? The flame on Naz's hand became more and more violent, and his mood became more and more excited. When we meet again, we must decide the victor once more. No way. Hearing Naz's words, Lucy was speechless. You still want to fight? Naz, let's not fight. Habby quickly advised. Noah is very strong. Are you really an idiot? Even Gray couldn't help but scold him. Even Alusha can't defeat him, what else do you want? Isn't that good? Alusha held another opinion and looked at them with a smile. Naz has also become a lot stronger than 2 years ago, and he has always wanted to defeat Noah. Noah, give Naz a chance. Alusha? Lucy looked at Alusha in surprise. No way. Are we really going to fight? Compared to the astonished Lucy, Grace seemed to have understood what was going on and gave up on persuading her. Even Harpy lowered his head and stopped persuading her. Hey, Habby. Lucy couldn't help but say. Are you really not going to persuade Naz? That's an opponent that even Alusha can't defeat. This is also something that can't be helped. Habby sighed. Naz has always wanted to defeat Noah from the beginning. In addition to finding Igoniel, Naz's biggest dream is to defeat Noah. So, even the president can't persuade such a Naz. It can't be, right? Lucy finally felt worried. We're all partners, don't be like this. Ignoring the discussions of his partners around him, Noah looked at Naz, who was staring at him with a persistent face, and after a while, he smiled. Naz, don't be so anxious. Don't you think it's a bit of a waste if we duel now? Waste? Naz was stunned. You see, you all said that even Alusha can't do anything to me, but in fact, Alusha is an S-rank archmage, and I'm just an ordinary guild member. Noah smiled slightly. So, Naz, why don't we postpone our duel until we both become S-rank archmages? Naz's eyes suddenly lit up. That's a good idea. Alusha nodded in agreement. Whether it's Noah or Naz, there is still room for growth. When they become S-rank archmages, they will definitely be stronger than now. When that time comes, if we duel again, it will definitely be more exciting than now. I think so too. Noah looked at Naz with a smile. Naz, what do you think? Let's do it this way. The stubborn Naz agreed without hesitation and laughed at the sky. Good. I'm already burning up. S-grade magic shooter. Gray seemed to be affected by Noah's words as well. He extended his fist at Noah. Don't forget, there's still me. Noah smiled and didn't say anything. He just extended his hand and bumped fists with Gray. Everything was said without words. Looking at the three boys like this, even Alusha and Lucy felt a little emotional. What should we do? Lucy bit her finger pitifully. I really want to join them. No, you can't. Hubby said without hesitation. If it's Lucy, she will definitely not become an S-rank archmage. What are you talking about? Lucy muttered in dissatisfaction. I'm also very strong, okay? Alusha's gaze swept over Noah, Naz, and Gray, and her heart was surprisingly gentle. The feelings between boys are really great. Chapter 357. After a blood-boiling agreement, in the next minute, Naz, Gray, Lucy, and Habi's mood dropped directly from the climax to the bottom because of Alusha's reminder. Noah only knew the reason for everyone's depression later, and he also knew why Alusha and her party appeared in the sea on a pirate ship. According to Alusha, the reason why they went to sea this time was entirely because Naz, Gray, Lucy, and Habi took the initiative to go out to perform an S-level mission. S-level mission. That's a super difficult mission that only S-level magic shooters are allowed to undertake. Those S-level missions were posted on the second floor of the guild. Since childhood, Makarov has repeatedly warned Noah, who lived on the third floor of the guild, not to go there. It can be imagined how much importance Makarov attached to these S-level missions. In the past, even if there was an S-level magic shooter who wanted to undertake an S-level mission, he must get the final consent of Makarov. Otherwise, even an S-level magic shooter can't undertake an S-level mission privately, and violators will be punished severely. The reason for this is very simple, because it's too dangerous. With Makarov's attention to the guild members, he naturally can't watch the members of the guild casually undertake such a dangerous mission and indirectly die. Therefore, in this regard, Makarov will set such strict requirements. This time, Naz and Habi tore down the S-level mission on the second floor without authorization, and dragged Lucy to sea to perform such a dangerous mission. Makarov almost exploded with anger. What made Makarov so angry was that Gray was originally sent by him to bring Naz and others back. As a result, for various reasons, Gray also participated in this mission. Alusha, who returned to the guild after performing a mission outside, learned about this and went crazy on the spot. For Alusha, who doesn't know how to turn around, violating the rules of the guild is absolutely unforgivable. So, in order to catch up with Naz, Gray, Lucy, and Habi, Alusha directly hijacked a pirate ship and went to sea to pursue them. It seems that a lot of things happened in the middle because of this S-level mission. However, Alusha still found Naz and others without any danger, and they took the pirate ship that Alusha had hijacked before, intending to return to the guild. It seems that Alusha got along well with the pirates. The pirates also worshipped Alusha as Big Sister, which is why Alusha protected those pirates. After that, Alusha and others on the pirate ship met Noah, who had just returned. There is no doubt that except for Alusha, who is an S-level magic shooter, Naz, Gray, Lucy, and Habi will all be punished for taking on an S-level mission without authorization when they return this time. That's why Naz and others are so depressed. However, Noah feels that it is the greatest blessing to be able to come back safely. Although he doesn't know how dangerous the S-level mission is, Noah has been warned repeatedly by Makarov since he was a child, and he already has the impression that the S-level mission is directly linked to danger. Therefore, it's already very good that Naz and others can come back safe and sound. When Naz, Gray, and Habi escaped to the city to relax because of their low mood, Noah went to find a hotel with Alusha and Lucy. By the way, Elusha is also pulling a small car full of suitcases, at least a dozen or more. Is it necessary to bring so much luggage when you go out to perform a mission? In this regard, Noah has always wanted to complain since he was a child, but Elusha is still as stubborn as before. Even if she performs a small task, she will bring such a large car full of luggage. There are also some armors in the luggage that can't fit in the change space. They may be used, so it is absolutely necessary to bring them. This reason can't be said to be wrong. Therefore, Noah let Elusha do what she wants. Walking on the street to the reserved hotel, Noah, Lucy, and Elusha were chatting. Noah, Habi said that your magic is very, very powerful. Lucy doesn't seem to feel restrained in front of Noah anymore, and she asked Noah curiously. What exactly is your magic? There is nothing to hide. Noah answered straightforwardly. My magic is shatter. It is a magic that can shatter everything that comes into contact with my magic. Don't underestimate this magic just because Noah answered so casually. Elusha said solemnly. Crush is a real high-level destruction magic. In terms of destruction, there are almost no magic in the world that can compare to it. Compared to my change magic and Gray's shape magic, Noah's magic and Naz's magic are very rare. A high-level destruction magic as rare as Naz's magic? Lucy shrunk her neck slightly. It is really powerful, that kind of magic. But its power is also as difficult to control as Naz's. If you are not careful, it can cause a lot of damage. Noah asked. Then what is your magic? Me? Lucy untied a bunch of keys from her waist and raised it in front of Noah, and said with a little joy and pride. My magic is star spirit magic. Star spirit? Noah blinked and remembered. On the side of this world, there was a completely different space from this world. It was called Star Spirit World. And in this Star Spirit World lived a group of strange life forms. They were collectively called Star Spirits. The so-called Star Spirit magic referred to the magic that signed a contract with the Star Spirit of the Star Spirit World. Sorcerers used the key that could summon a certain Star Spirit in the Star Spirit World to sign a contract with the summoned Star Spirit. Once the contract was signed, the Star Spirit would serve the sorcerer as its nominal master. Then, the sorcerers of the Star Spirit could use the key as a medium in battle to summon the Star Spirit that they had signed a contract with from the Star Spirit World to help them in battle. Noah also accidentally saw this kind of summoning magic in a book. It was said that Star Spirit magic was a very ancient magic. In terms of age, it might be comparable to the Dragon Slayer magic that was born in ancient times. Summoning? Noah nodded thoughtfully. You do have a very interesting magic. Is that so? Lucy seemed to be very happy that Noah valued Star Spirit magic and nodded repeatedly. Noah, are you also interested in Star Spirit magic? A little. Noah unconsciously touched his arm. I also have a companion similar to Star Spirit that can be summoned to help me at any time, so I am quite interested in Star Spirit magic. Hearing this, even Elusha was curious. You also have a companion similar to Star Spirit that can be summoned to help you in battle? Yes. Noah smiled. If there is an opportunity in the future, I will introduce them to you. Wow, I didn't expect Noah to be the same type of sorcerer as me. Lucy smiled happily, then suddenly thought of something and took out a silver key from her bag. After hesitating for a moment, she reluctantly handed it to Noah. This is for you. This is? Noah subconsciously took it, held the silver key, and looked at Lucy in confusion. This is a Star Spirit key? This was bought in the shop not long ago. Because I already have the same type, I haven't signed a contract with it. Lucy gave Noah a cheerful smile. I will give it to you, you have to use it well. Is this okay? Noah frowned. For a Star Spirit sorcerer, the number of Star Spirits is directly related to their strength. It's okay, this is just a generic type that can be bought in the shop. Lucy explained. In this mission, I got a very precious key. There are only 12 keys to the 12 zodiac gates in the world, so I can't give it to you. Is that so? Noah hesitated for a moment, then his expression relaxed. If that's the case, then I will accept it. Yes, yes, yes. Lucy pretended to nod. That's right. Seeing this, Noah laughed and shook his head. This newcomer is quite interesting. Chapter 358. The dazzling sunlight poured down like rain, shrouding the entire magnolia under the sun. Noah lifted his head and looked at the building that was abnormally bright under the sunlight, as well as the sparkling plaque. His emotions fluctuated uncontrollably. Fairy tale. It was now one of the strongest magic guide guild in the Fiori Kingdom. Compared to 2 years ago, the appearance of the guild had not changed at all, but there must have been a lot of changes inside Fairy Tale. The reason was that it was different from when Noah had just joined Fairy Tale. Now, Fairy Tale had more than 5 S-rank magic shooters. And below the S-rank magic shooters, people like Naz and Gray had all grown up. Noah's childhood playmates had also become the pillars of Fairy Tale. Coupled with the addition of potential talents like Lucy, Fairy Tale was now absolutely qualified to be called the strongest magic guide guild in the Fiori Kingdom. After returning after 2 years, Noah found that no matter how good his ability to control his emotions was, it was difficult to avoid the fluctuations in his mood at this moment. Because this was Noah's home. Elusha, Naz, Gray, Lucy, and Habi consciously stood aside and did not disturb Noah. Looking at Noah, who stood at the door for a long time without any movement, they only had an understanding smile on their faces. Even the silly Naz was the same. After a long time, Noah finally calmed down his emotions. Without looking back, he strode to the door of the guild, stretched out his hand, and pushed open the door of the guild. Hua! At this moment, inside the guild, a wave of noise surged like a tide and drowned Noah. However, to Noah, this noise was too familiar, so familiar that he could not help but have the urge to smile. Like the noise, what appeared in front of Noah was a very familiar scene. The bar-like guild hall. The innermost bar. The commission board with the commission orders posted. As well as those familiar or unfamiliar faces. Looking at all this, Noah's mouth unconsciously curved up. He lifted his feet and walked step by step into the guild. Finally, someone noticed Noah and seemed to recognize Noah. They were stunned. As Noah's footsteps echoed inside the guild members also seemed to feel something and looked in the direction of Noah. Then, without exception, they were all stunned. Only the newcomers who had joined Fairy Tale in the past 2 years were at a loss, but they also noticed that the atmosphere was not right, so they obediently shut their mouths. Not long after, the noisy guild was so quiet that even a pin drop could be heard. Clang! It was also at this time that an extremely loud and ear-piercing sound was heard. It was the sound of something made of metal hitting the ground. Noah directly turned his gaze to the source of the sound. Over there, a young lady with short white hair that reached her shoulders, wearing a woolen sweater and shorts, and an extremely graceful figure, was staring at Noah in a daze. Beneath her feet, a tray was rolling. Without a doubt, it had fallen from the young lady's hands. Seeing this girl, Noah did not know how to describe his feelings at this moment. Excited? Should be, right? But that was much more complicated than being excited. After all, it was not the first time Noah returned to the guild after such a long time. Suppressing the emotions in his heart, he came in front of the girl who was staring blankly at him, bent down, picked up the tray that fell on the ground, and put it back in the hands of the girl. Can't even hold the tray properly. Looking into the silly eyes of the girl, Noah reached out his hand and lightly scratched her small nose. Then I'll have to consider whether I should let you cook a meal to celebrate my return, Lisanna. As soon as this sentence came out, it seemed to have awakened everyone present. Finally, everyone present reacted to the situation. After rubbing his eyes and confirming that the one standing in front of her was Noah, all the people who knew Noah blushed. Oh, 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 oh. In the next second, shocking cheers resounded throughout the entire guild. The cheers were only for one person. Yes. Just for one person. For Noah. Big brother Noah. Lysana threw herself into Noah's arms without hesitation. Noah. A short distance away, a group of old guild members, who had known Noah since he was a child, jumped up and pounced on Noah, giving Noah a fright. Just as Noah was about to be drowned out by the crowd, an old but extremely powerful voice sounded. All of you, stop. A bunch of idiots. Like a paralyzing curse, the cheers of the entire guild came to an abrupt halt. Those who were pouncing on Noah froze on the spot, but the excitement on their faces didn't subside in the slightest. Under such circumstances, a short old man with a walking stick slowly walked out of the crowd. His eyes were fixed on Noah and did not move away for a moment. Grandpa. Noah, who was hugging the equally excited Lysana, turned his head and looked at Makarov, his dark eyes rippling slightly. Compared to the excited guild members around him, Makarov didn't have the slightest bit of emotion on his face. Instead, he had a peaceful expression, as if he was looking at a child returning home. You're back. Noah nodded heavily in response. I'm back. A smile gradually appeared on Makarov's face, and soon it turned into a laugh that almost covered his entire face. The banquet is starting. Oh, 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 oh. Deafening cheers once again resounded throughout Fairy Tale. Looking at the cheering guild members in front of him and Makarov, who was laughing cheerfully to hide his emotions, Noah glanced at Alyssa and the others standing at the entrance of the guild with smiles on their faces. Feeling the soft touch of Lysana in his arms, something in his heart seemed to melt. At this moment, there was only one sentence left in Noah's heart. True enough. This is my home. Big brother Noah. Big brother Noah. Big brother Noah. Tightly hugging Noah, Lysana seemed to be afraid that if she let go, Noah would disappear. Not only did she tighten her grip bit by bit, she also constantly muttered Noah's name, causing Noah to bitterly smile. 2 years had passed, and Lysana had changed slightly more than the others. After all, these 2 years belonged to Lysana's growth period. Not only did the 17-year-old Lysana not lose her previous cuteness, but she also had a hint of a mature woman. Not only did her figure become more curvaceous, but the curves of her delicate body were also more beautiful than before. The 2 shining white thighs that were exposed outside of her shorts almost shocked Noah's eyes, causing Noah to feel more than once that a woman changes 18 times between childhood and womanhood. Of course, these were not the biggest changes. The biggest change in Lysana's body was undoubtedly the impressive growth of her chest. Because Lysana had been tightly hugging Noah, Noah constantly felt the full and round feeling in his arms, causing him to sigh. Alright, Lysana. Without any other choice, Noah could only pat Lysana's little head and bitterly smile as he comforted her. This is not a dream, nor is it an illusion. I'm right here, I won't suddenly disappear. I don't care. Lysana didn't know if it was because she missed Noah after not seeing him for so long, or because she was complaining that Noah hadn't returned for so long, but she stubbornly shouted. I just want to hug you. I just want to hug you. Alright, alright, alright. Hug me, hug me. Noah had no choice but to compromise and roll his eyes. You can hug me for as long as you want. That's fine, right? As soon as he said that, a bell-like laughter rang out in front of Noah. These past 2 years, Lysana has always wanted to reunite with you. Noah, just let Lysana be stubborn for once. Hearing this voice, Noah was startled and raised his head to look ahead. However, the scene that entered his eyes not only didn't dispel Noah's shock, but instead made it even more intense. Chapter 359. Hee. With a sweet smile that could intoxicate any man, the beautiful young lady stood in front of Noah with her hands behind her back. She bent her delicate body forward and stared at Noah with a pair of gentle eyes that could melt one's heart. Strange ripples undulated in her heart. She was a beautiful girl who was flawless no matter how one looked at her. The young lady was wearing a princess dress that was not luxurious but appeared to be very elegant. Her waist-length white hair was spread out like snow on her soft and beautiful back. Her figure was tall and full, just like a model that had walked out of a book. She was so beautiful that it was suffocating. And from the girl, Noah could feel a gentle temperament like water. That temperament of a saintess touched Noah, and his eyes couldn't help but stay on the other party. Noah had seen many super beautiful girls with both beauty and temperament. For example, the sacred and inviolable Son of Heaven. For example, the innocent and lovely Julie. For example, the dazzling and confident Lilith. In addition, there was Ayoko, who was brimming with heroic spirit and incomparably strong will, and Yuju, who was like a fairy tale princess. These beautiful girls, whether it was appearance or temperament, were far superior to ordinary people. Noah's eyes had long been spoiled. And now, in Noah's view, the girl standing in front of him now, whether it was appearance or temperament, didn't lose to anyone Noah had seen before. This wasn't the main reason why she attracted Noah's attention. The real reason why Noah couldn't help but cast his gaze over and was stunned on the spot, unable to react for a long time, was that he felt a familiar aura from the girl in front of him. However, in Noah's impression, although the owner of this aura was indeed as beautiful as a flower, it was absolutely impossible for her to be so soft and gentle like water. She was like the Virgin Mary, touching the heart of others all the time. What was going on here? You. Noah could only hesitate and use an extremely uncertain tone to call out tentatively. Mira? What's the matter? The girl named Mira looked at Noah with a smile. You don't recognize me? When Noah heard this sentence that was equivalent to an admission, he was stunned on the spot without any surprise. Mira? It's really Mira? The elder sister of Elfman and Lisanna? The delinquent girl who fought with Alusha all day long? The magic shooter who became an S-rank magic shooter at the age of 16? The Mira Jenny who used demon souls as a means of battle? Looking at the girl who was smiling at him with an extremely gentle and sweet smile, Noah felt as though his worldview had been impacted. No matter what, he couldn't overlap the girl in front of him with the girl in front of him. Driven by such feelings, Noah could not help but reach out his hand and caress Mila's cheek in a silly manner. Are you really Mira? It's not like she's become so gentle because of me, right? That's what someone is thinking. At this moment, a rough voice sounded in Noah's ears. Big sister isn't the only one who's changed, Noah. A dark-skinned muscular man appeared behind Mira and entered Noah's sight. He laughed loudly at Noah. Long time no see, Noah. Elfman? Noah was surprised. I thought you went out to work. Noah, I saw you, big sister, and Lisanna catching up with each other here, so I didn't want to disturb you. Elfman raised his thick arm and patted his elbow. How is it? I've become more manly, haven't I? It should be said that you've become more violent. The one who said this was a girl sitting at a table nearby, hugging a large wine barrel and smiling drunkenly at Noah. Yo, Noah, long time no see. Karna? You're here too. Noah's eyes lit up, but when he saw the large wine barrel in Karna's arms, he smiled helplessly. You haven't changed much compared to 2 years ago. Is that so? I feel that my alcohol tolerance has increased a lot. Karna let out a burp as she grinned from ear to ear. You've also become more manly than before. Noah, do you want to date me? Lisanna, who had a strong reaction to this sentence, glared at Karna with dissatisfaction. Please don't joke like this. Oh. Karna laughed mischievously. I'm not joking. Karna. Mira puffed up her cheeks and preached to Karna. You can't bully Lisanna too much. Yes, yes, yes. Karna laughed heartily as she picked up the wine barrel and began to gulp down the wine. Her domineering drinking style made Elfman take a few steps back. Looking at his childhood friends who had changed or not, Noah revealed a sincere smile. Noah. Elisha, Naz, Gray, Lucy, Hubby, and the others, who were sitting at the largest table in the middle of the guild, waved at Noah and shouted. Come over quickly. Noah, Mira, Lisanna, and the others looked at each other with a smile, got up, and walked forward. Today, the cheers and noise lasted all day. Chapter 360. Until the sun set in the west, the noise and cheers that had been ringing in Fairy Tale for an entire day gradually died down, allowing the guild to regain its tranquility. Few outsiders knew that today, none of the magic shooters in the Fairy Tale Guild went out to work, but instead held a banquet for the entire day. The main character of the banquet was naturally Noah. Under the support of his companions, Noah spent the day in a noisy atmosphere. It wasn't until the evening that he heaved a sigh of relief after the departure of his guild members. But today, the smile on Noah's face never disappeared, and the number of times he smiled was more than any other day in the past 2 years. His mood was unprecedentedly relaxed all day long, and even Noah himself felt that it was somewhat inconceivable. Only after Elisha, Naz, Gray, Lucy and the others left the guild did Noah have the time to report to Makarov, who hadn't disturbed him and his friends from reminiscing about the past 2 years. Of course, even if Makarov was his grandfather, he couldn't casually talk about going to other worlds to retrieve world fragments. It wasn't that Noah was afraid of Makarov going out and talking nonsense, but even Noah himself felt that his experience wasn't something an ordinary person could have. Even now, he had a kind of illusory feeling of whether or not he was dreaming, let alone Makarov. Thus, after hiding the matter of between worlds, world fragments and his travels in various worlds, Noah chose to talk about his own experiences. The general situation was that while Noah was receiving Mavis guidance on Heavenly Wolf Island, he was also being instructed by Mavis to travel around the world and experience all kinds of things, using it as training to improve his own strength. Truly worthy of being called a first-generation talent. She knew that you wouldn't improve much if you only stayed on Heavenly Wolf Island to train, so she let you go out to increase your knowledge and experience, train yourself and improve yourself. Makarov sighed from the bottom of his heart. If you're only allowed to receive guidance on Heavenly Wolf Island for 2 years, your growth won't be as fast as training outside, right? Hearing Makarov's words of admiration for Mavis, Noah inwardly apologized. However, there was no other way. Noah's experience could only be described in this way. Otherwise, it would be too far-fetched. Even if Makarov was willing to believe it, he probably wouldn't agree to let him go to another world if he knew about it. Even if he has already passed away, the first generation has always been paying attention to the fairy tale and protecting us. Sitting at the bar, Makarov looked at the street outside the door, his old face full of determination. That's why we have to protect Fairy Tale, no matter what. Absolutely. Hearing this, Noah nodded heavily. Although he didn't know whether Mavis was really always watching over Fairy Tale, Noah and Makarov had the same feelings. No matter what, this family had to be protected. This was absolutely necessary. The current you is definitely stronger than before. I can no longer feel any trace of magic on your body. It seems that you are no longer at a level where I can casually see through your strength. Makarov turned his gaze to Noah, looking at the grandson he was most proud of, and smiled with gratification. Although I knew from when you were young that you would surpass me one day, I didn't think that this day would come so soon. Grandfather, please don't say that, Noah hurriedly said. If it's grandfather, you will definitely be stronger than me. It's fine even if you don't say such words to comfort me. I won't feel disappointed just because my grandson has grown so much. In fact, I will be very happy. Makarov laughed, but after laughing, his expression turned serious. You are the same as your brother. Both of you are growing at an astonishing speed. Now, I don't even know if I am a match for you. Hearing this sentence, the expression on Noah's face also converged little by little. Compared to you, Lax's really makes me feel uneasy. Makarov sighed. That child's heart is already filled with power. To him, only power is everything. He doesn't have the same dedication to the guild and his companions as you do. I am really worried that if he does something wrong in the future, will I be able to stop him? Saying this, Makarov's wrinkled eyes showed deep worry. Noah knew that Makarov's worries were not superfluous. With Laxus's personality, it was really possible for him to do something crazy. However, Noah did not agree with Makarov's understanding of Laxus. Makarov felt that Laxus did not attach much importance to the guild and his companions. In fact, Noah knew that this matter was the exact opposite. Perhaps Laxus did not have much of a sense of belonging to his companions in Fairy Tale, but Laxus definitely cared more about the guild than Makarov imagined. He had known Laxus for a long time. Makarov was too worried about Laxus's future, so he did not see through Laxus's heart. However, Noah had long noticed the dedication in Laxus's heart to the guild. It was just that this stubbornness was slightly distorted, which had resulted in the current Raxus. "Grandpa, don't worry," Noah said faintly. "If Laxus doesn't do anything, then it's fine. If he does, then I will deal with it." When he said this, although Noah's tone was very indifferent, Makarov felt a great amount of pressure from it. Makarov looked at Noah, who was emitting a terrifying aura, with some surprise. He finally understood. Perhaps, this grandson of his was stronger than he imagined. Perhaps, Noah had really become stronger than him. Realizing this, Makarov fixed his gaze on Noah. After a long time, he revealed a relieved smile. "Then I'll leave it to you." Noah nodded his head heavily once again, and his heart was filled with excitement. "Raxus, I hope you don't disappoint Grandpa. Otherwise, this time, I won't be like before, stopping here." When night fell, Makarov also left the guild, leaving the guild in a deathly stillness. Noah returned to his own room. Compared to 2 years ago, the room hadn't changed at all. He touched the table and wardrobe. When he felt that there wasn't even a speck of dust on them, the corner of his mouth couldn't help but curl up. Noah didn't need to confirm with anyone, and he could guess who was the one who cleaned up his room during the 2 years that he wasn't in the guild and kept his room free of dust. Who else could it be apart from her? Of course, Noah didn't know that he had only guessed half of it. In these 2 years, apart from Lisanna, Mira also came to clean Noah's room almost every day. She kept Noah's room almost exactly the same as it was 2 years ago. Lying on the bed that was obviously washed and changed, Noah held a magazine and flipped through it. In this magazine, whether it was the cover or the bottom page, there were all kinds of fashion photos of Mira in the most conspicuous places. Noah only found out today. Since Noah left, almost the next day, Mira no longer went out to work as a magic shooter. Instead, she completely changed her appearance. Not only did she become the most fashionable cover girl, but she also became the signature girl of Fairy Tale. Thanks to this, Mira's fame was now known throughout the Fiori Kingdom. Her popularity was so high that there wasn't a single man who didn't fall head over heels for her. However, because of this, the Strauss siblings team disbanded. Like Mira, Lisanna didn't take on any missions for 2 years. Instead, she worked as a waitress in Fairy Tale. Only Elfman was still active as a magic shooter. That's amazing. Looking at the various cute and beautiful photos of Mira in the magazine, Noah could only sigh. Mira has changed a lot. At this moment, a knock sounded on the door. "Big brother Noah, are you there?" Chapter 361. Big brother Noah, are you there? Following this sentence, there was a knock on the door. Noah had just retracted his gaze from the magazine in his hand when the person standing outside pushed the door open. Not long after, Lisanna's head popped in and entered Noah's sight. "I'm coming in." Lisanna didn't have any intention of asking for Noah's permission. She walked straight into Noah's room and closed the door behind her. Perhaps it was because she had just taken a shower, but the moment she entered the room, a fragrant scent filled the room. Her beautiful white hair was stained with water droplets, proving that she had just taken a shower. She was still wearing a woolen sweater and shorts. Her impressive bosom was extremely prominent, and her 2 white thighs were dangling in the air. It was extremely eye-catching. This made Noah sigh in his heart. Not only Mira, but even this little sister of the Strauss family had changed a lot. At the very least, her every move was truly attractive. In other words, she had grown up. She had grown up in all aspects. Just like how Noah paid attention to Lisanna also paid attention to Noah the moment she entered the room. Compared to 2 years ago, Noah's appearance hadn't changed much, but his temperament had changed a lot. From Lisanna's point of view, her big brother Noah had become more manly than before. However, when Lisanna saw the magazine with Myra's photo on the cover in Noah's hand, her cheeks suddenly puffed up, and she became angry. What's wrong? Seeing Lisanna's angry expression, Noah couldn't help but laugh. It's already so late, why aren't you sleeping? What are you doing here? Big brother Noah, do you not want to see me? Lisanna said as if she was throwing a tantrum. Anyway, I'm not as charming as big sister Mira. Hearing this, Noah couldn't help but smile and tease Lisanna. What? Could it be that you're jealous of your own sister? No, I'm just telling the truth. I'm not jealous of Sister Mira. Lisanna walked to the bedside and looked straight at Noah with her hands on her hips. After all, in order to attract someone's attention, I know how hard Sister Mira worked for the past 2 years. Now that she finally succeeded, I won't be jealous. Hearing this, Noah was stunned. When he connected the dots between her gaze and the content of her words, he was speechless. Noah wasn't an idiot. If he still couldn't understand what she meant, then it would have been a waste of his efforts to create a fairy tale in the world of Pitch Black Bullet. Hence, Noah could only ask cautiously. The someone you're talking about, don't tell me it's me? I say, big brother Noah, you can't say this to big sister Mira. Otherwise, I won't forgive you, Lisanna complained to Noah. Have you forgotten what you said to big sister Mira before you left the guild? Before I left the guild? Noah immediately searched through his memories. After a while, he revealed a stunned expression. But to let a girl wait for 3 years only to be rejected, wasn't that too cruel? Besides, it wasn't that Noah didn't have any feelings for Sage Tianzi. It was just that he didn't have feelings for Mira and Lisanna, who had been with him since young. On the other side, after hearing Noah's words, Lisanna actually hesitated for a moment. But perhaps she felt that she shouldn't have hesitated like this, so she glared at Noah angrily. In short, if you make Sister Mira sad, I definitely won't forgive you. If you make me sad, I definitely won't forgive you. You're practically giving me an unsolvable problem, aren't you? Noah retorted. Besides, even if I have the ability to protect both of you from harm, what about the others? Others? Lisanna was stunned at first. When she realized what this sentence meant, her eyes widened and she pointed at Noah in disbelief. Could it be that brother Noah has another woman outside? What you said is a little wrong, right? Noah realized that he had said something wrong, so he braced himself and said, You're saying it as if I have another woman here. Perhaps this sentence angered Lisanna, but with a bang, Lisanna slammed the bed and cast a gloomy look at Noah. In other words, brother Noah really has another sweetheart? What you said is a little wrong, right? Noah couldn't help but look away. Can't it be that there's another girl who likes me, something like that? Noah's voice was getting weaker and weaker. This was because Lisanna's head was slowly lowering, and her face was buried in the shadow of her bangs, so no one could see her expression clearly. That. Noah subconsciously lowered his voice. Lisanna? Sister Mira, I can still bear it. Lisanna said as she suddenly raised her head, and a drop of tear hung in the corner of her eye. What other woman? I won't admit it. As soon as she finished speaking, Lisanna suddenly pounced forward and pushed Noah onto the bed. Lisanna, you, before Noah could finish his sentence, he couldn't say anything else. This was because Lisanna lowered her head and blocked Noah's mouth. With her own mouth. Chapter 362. By the time Noah reacted, a soft and fragrant tongue had already probed into Noah's mouth, which was slightly open due to his excessive surprise, and instantly tangled with Noah's tongue. That sweet touch was transmitted to Noah's nerves through the lips and tongue, causing Noah to involuntarily open his eyes wide. Looking at Lisanna, who was clumsily and unskillfully kissing him with her eyes closed, his heart was filled with astonishment. Noah didn't know that when he was young, he had already been secretly kissed by Mira and Lisanna. However, Noah wasn't inexperienced in kissing. Don't forget, in the world of the Night of the Magi, in order to provide magic power for Qingzi and Yuzhu to open up the blocked magic circuit, Noah had also forcefully kissed Qingzi and Yuzhu. But unlike Qingzi and Yuzhu, Lisanna's kiss had the greatest impact on Noah. After all, one was a childhood sweetheart who had grown up with him, the other was a cohabitant who lived together for benefits, the other was an uncontrollable emotion that took the initiative to kiss, and the other was an action that had to be done because of external factors. The difference between the two could be imagined. In addition, Noah had never thought that Lisanna would one day do such a bold thing, so it was easy to imagine how much astonishment he had in his heart. Woo! Chirp, and while Noah was still astonished, Lisanna seemed to be getting more and more familiar with the feeling of kissing. Her tongue nimbly entangled with Noah's tongue, and began to spit out scorching hot breaths. Even her cheeks were faintly rosy. The feeling of tongues entangling with each other was enough to make Noah dizzy, but what really made Noah's heart tremble was Lisanna's soft and delicate body. Her delicate body pressed down on Noah without the slightest gap, as if she didn't want to let Noah escape. Lisanna's pair of long legs that were exposed to the air unconsciously rubbed against Noah's legs. Her delicate body was also slightly trembling because of her overly bold behavior. The fullness of her chest squeezed Noah tightly. That sensation made Noah realize once again that she was no longer a child. It was also the culprit that caused Noah's mind to go blank for a moment. After a while, Noah finally reacted. He grabbed Lisanna's shoulder and pulled hard, pulling her lips away from his. Huff, huff, huff. Perhaps it was because she was too focused and hard-working, but Lisanna's cheeks were rosy and her eyes were misty. Her mouth panted, allowing her sweet breath to hit Noah's face, causing Noah's heart to waver. Lisanna, I don't care. Ignoring Noah's hesitation, Lisanna reached out and cupped Noah's face as she gazed at Noah with a dazed expression. Whether it's Sister Mira or any other woman, Big Brother Noah is mine. I won't give you away so easily. After saying that, without giving Noah a chance to reply, Lisanna panted and lowered her head, once again pressing her lips against his. Her tongue was as nimble as a small snake. In an instant, it drilled into Noah's mouth, kissing him without care. Feeling Lisanna's kiss that seemed to want to pour out all the feelings in her heart. Noah's heart trembled, and trembled again. Although he was more or less aware of the feelings in Lisanna's heart. But Noah had never known this feeling. It was actually so dense. At the very most, how long had Noah and Lisanna been together? It was said that they were childhood sweethearts who grew up together. However, Noah joined Fairy Tale at the age of 10 and only went out to do missions at the age of 11, where he met the Strauss siblings. After that, in order to master crush magic, Noah left Fairy Tale for 4 years. After that, he went to another world and left Fairy Tale for 2 years. Thus, if one were to really count, Noah and Lisanna had only been together for 2 years. 2 years of being together had caused such a young girl to be so infatuated with him. There was a difference of 4 years and 2 years in between. If it was a normal situation, even if he once liked someone, this feeling would gradually fade under the erosion of time, right? But Lisanna's feelings were still so strong. Under the test of time, the feelings in one's heart would indeed fade, but there were also some that would grow stronger because of longing. Lisanna was clearly the latter. That was why she could no longer endure it. Mira was clearly the latter. That was why she could change her appearance for Noah, all because of a casual sentence from Noah. At that moment, Noah finally realized how much weight he was shouldering. Just as Lisanna said, no matter who was sad, Noah was not worthy of forgiveness. Apart from Mira and Lisanna, it would be fine if the Elysian child in the other world no longer had feelings for Noah. But if she still had feelings for Noah after 3 years, then Noah could not let the girl who had waited for him for 3 years be sad. Was this responsibility not heavy enough? Under the influence of such emotions, Noah's heart melted. MMM. TSK, Noah no longer hesitated and began to respond to her kiss. Perhaps because she sensed the change in Noah's heart, this time, she took the initiative to part her lips and stared at Noah's face with her watery eyes. Big brother Noah. Lisanna called out her sweetheart's name with infatuation. She suddenly straightened her body and reached for the hem of her clothes. With a series of rustling sounds, Lisanna took off her top, exposing her fair skin to Noah's eyes. Noah only saw a patch of white entering his field of vision. Then, a pair of round and full breasts bounced in front of his eyes. The captivating red that was like the finishing touch trembled slightly, causing Noah's heart to skip a beat. It was only at this moment that Noah finally noticed. Lisanna did not wear underwear at all. Noah. Big brother. Lisanna murmured Noah's name. Because of her shyness, she more or less covered her chest. But after a while, she put down her arms with trembling hands, revealing her delicate body in front of Noah. Even her voice was trembling. Don't keep staring. It's so embarrassing. This sentence was definitely from the bottom of her heart. In other words, Lisanna was really embarrassed about being naked in front of Noah. But even so, Lisanna still did not choose to avoid it, nor did she choose to hide. Instead, she boldly and bravely showed her beauty to her sweetheart. Was this not worthy of pity? In any case, Noah felt that at least for this minute, at this second, he was captivated by this brave girl in front of him. He no longer avoided her gaze, but his expression was very complicated. Is this really okay? There's nothing wrong with it. Lisanna reached out and stroked Noah's cheek, her eyes shining with misty light. Other than big brother Noah, Lisanna doesn't want anyone else. Saying this, Lisanna directly hugged Noah, squeezing her pair of full breasts and moving her lips towards Noah. Please, big brother Noah, don't reject me. With that, Lisanna turned all the feelings in her heart into practical action and gave the most passionate and intense kiss to Noah. And of course, what Lisanna wanted to give to Noah was definitely not just a kiss. Thus, Noah found that his heart was beating vigorously for Lisanna. At this moment, Noah's heart was also occupied by a thought. Want her, don't want to reject her, no matter what, I can't reject her, I can't reject this girl who has given everything to me. Thus, the accumulated feelings in Noah's heart completely exploded. Ugh, as Lisanna gasped, Noah tightly hugged her delicate body, turned, and pressed her under his body, pulled up the quilt, and covered their bodies. Not long after, pieces of clothes began to fall to the ground. Until a certain moment, a cry of pain suddenly reverberated, igniting the night and causing the temperature in the air to rise slightly. The panting sound did not stop for a long time. Chapter 363. The next day, waking up from his sleep, the memories of last night suddenly surged into Noah's mind, causing Noah to be invigorated. The sleepiness in his body instantly disappeared without a trace. Hurriedly opening his eyes, Noah fiercely turned his head and looked to his side. Huff! Huff! In Noah's arms, Lisanna and Noah were covered under the same quilt. Her head was pillowed on Noah's arm, and her hands were tightly wrapped around Noah's neck. Her beautiful face was still slightly rosy, and there was still a teardrop hanging from the corner of her eyes. However, her expression was extremely peaceful, and she slept very soundly. Only Noah, who was tightly stuck to Lisanna, knew that under the quilt, not only Lisanna, but even he was in a state of being completely naked. Feeling the breathing of Lisanna in his arms, at this moment, Noah's heart did not have any ripples, only infinite pity. Because, for the entire night, the girl in his arms had been sacrificing herself and was tormented by Noah for the entire night. Presumably, this girl must be exhausted now. She won't wake up until noon, or even at night, right? Rest well, Noah patted Lasana's head in his arms with extreme pity, and then left a light kiss on Lasana's smooth forehead. Then, he tiptoed out of the quilt, picked up the clothes on the ground, and put them on neatly. Ugh. It was not known if it was because the loss of Noah's body temperature made Lisana feel a little lost in her dream. Lisana turned over, and her fair skin was exposed from the quilt that had slipped off, exposed to the air, while she murmured in her sleep. Big brother Noah. Seeing this, Noah smiled knowingly and covered Lisana's body with the quilt again. Then, he picked up the clothes that belonged to Lisana on the ground and hung them on the clothes rack at the side. Then, he glanced at Lisana's sleeping face and quietly walked out of the room. Katja, accompanied by the extremely soft sound of the door closing, the room that was covered in pink for the entire night returned to its usual silence and warmth. Only the sound of Lisana's breathing was left, constantly lingering. Yo! Noah! Are you up? Noah! It's been a long time since I saw you come down from upstairs. But you woke up a lot later than usual today. Don't tell me you're still lazing around in bed at this age? Ahahaha. Shoo shoo. Do you think Noah is that brat from your family? That's right. Haha. Ha 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 ha. As soon as Noah walked down the stairs, the guild members noticed him. While they greeted him, they also made fun of each other. As a result, the bar on the first floor of the guild was as noisy as ever. Against the noise, Noah smiled helplessly, but at the same time, he was in a good mood. He responded to them one by one and blended in with the people around him, appearing to be very harmonious. After all, in this place, Noah was not the chairman of a guild that had taken in a bunch of children with power, nor was he an exception in some school, nor was he an outsider magician who had barged into someone else's territory in search of something. Here, Noah was just a member of Fairy Tale. At best, he was the grandson of the chairman. There was nothing special about him. Of course, if there was anything special about him, Noah was also very special. Other things aside, the fact that Noah could live directly in the guild was already very special. Moreover, after a day, even the new members of Fairy Tale who had just joined in the past 2 years had all heard about Noah from the old members. They knew that not only did Noah have the same magic as the strongest magic shooter in the guild, but he had also gone to the guild's holy land 2 years ago to receive guidance from the first chairman who was said to have turned into a ghost. Many people were guessing. After 2 years, Noah, along with Alusha and Mira, had always been far ahead of the rest of his companions. Among the companions of his generation, he could be said to be the strongest. Now, what level of strength did he have? Was it the same as before? Was it the same as Alusha, who was now the strongest female magic shooter in Fairy Tale? Or was it the same as Mira? Keeping a low profile and not using the identity of a magic shooter to improve himself? This was something that everyone was extremely curious about. Alusha, Naz, Gray, Lucy, Hubby, and others had already seen the tip of the iceberg of Noah's strength. They knew that Noah had been constantly improving himself in the past 2 years, and his strength had become unfathomable. In addition to knowing this, even Alusha and the others did not know how strong Noah really was. Probably, only Makarov more or less had some guesses after yesterday's conversation, right? In short, now, all the magic shooters in Fairy Tale were looking forward to seeing Noah's strength. Good morning. Mira, who was carrying a tray and serving drinks to the guild members, turned around and looked at Noah, who came down from upstairs with a smile. Are you hungry? I'll prepare breakfast for you. How would it feel to see a popular masked girl greet him with a gentle smile when he woke up early in the morning? Other men would probably howl endlessly for this, and Noah might also be shaken. But when he thought of eating up the sister of the popular model last night, and now lying in his room sleeping, Noah felt uncomfortable for a while. No. No need. At that moment, Noah smiled and shook his head. I'm not very hungry yet. Even if you're not very hungry, you still have to eat breakfast. Mira came directly in front of Noah, raised her head, and her gentle eyes met Noah's gaze. Like a newlywed wife, she reached out and helped Noah straighten his collar. Otherwise, it's not good for your health. Yes. Noah could only stiffen his body and let Mira do as she pleased. It couldn't be helped. Apart from his relationship with Lisanna, Mira had changed too much, and Noah still hadn't completely gotten used to her gentleness. Coupled with his conversation with Lisanna last night, Noah found out about Myra's feelings for him, so it was normal for him to be a little unsure of how to react. But now that he consciously paid attention to Mira, Noah realized that Mira was really different from how she treated him and others. This could be seen from the envious and jealous gazes that were constantly cast at him when Mira was tidying up his collar. So Mira really does have that kind of feeling for Noah? No wonder Mira changed so much when Noah just left. I thought that after 2 years, Mira would no longer have that kind of feeling. Damn that Noah, I'm so envious. The guild, which had been very noisy until just a moment ago, returned to silence in an instant. Then, all kinds of pitch-black resentment emitted from the bodies of the members of the guild, mixed with all kinds of fragmentary chatter. It was chilling. In the crowd, Lucy, who saw this scene, was also extremely surprised and let out a puzzled cry. The person that Miss Mira likes is Noah? Huh? The naked Gray glanced at Lucy from the corner of his eyes. That's something that everyone knows, isn't it? As soon as he said this, Elisha and Naz at the side turned to Gray in disbelief. So the person that Mira likes is Noah? Why does Mira like Noah? Is Noah more delicious than fire? Alright, I was wrong. Gray face-bombed. Although she has never admitted it, the person that Mira likes should be Noah. Everyone in the guild knows that. Those men even planned to wait for Noah to come back to teach Noah a lesson. On the table, Habe held a fish and casually said to Gray while biting into it. By the way, Gray, is it really okay for you to be naked? Oh. Gray seemed to have just realized that he was naked and was shocked. Lucy was speechless. On the other side, Noah, who could only be manipulated by Mira, suddenly frowned and reached out to grab Myra's hand that was moving on his collar. Mira looked at Noah in a daze. However, Noah did not pay attention to Mira. Instead, he pressed Myra's hand down, took a step forward, and looked at the entrance of the guild. There, a few figures slowly appeared and walked towards the guild, one step at a time. Chapter 364. Following a series of rhythmic footsteps, the noises in the fairy tale guild quieted down as if they could feel the oppressive atmosphere in the air. Noah held Myra's hand and took a step forward as if he wanted to protect Mira behind him. His gaze was fixated on the direction of the guild's entrance. Therefore, Noah didn't notice that Mira first glanced at the hand Noah was holding, then at the back of Noah who was standing in front of her. A blush appeared on her face, and for a moment, she even revealed a blissful expression. For Mira, it was obvious that looking at Noah's back was more attractive than looking at the abnormal situation in front of the guild's entrance. Except for Mira, everyone in the guild quietened down and looked at the entrance. Elisha, Naz, Gray, and the others looked at the entrance with a dignified expression. Habe hid behind Naz while trembling with fear. Only Lucy looked around in confusion. She was subconsciously affected by the atmosphere and held her breath. Under such circumstances, a small team appeared in front of everyone in the guild. The moment she saw the leader of this team, Lucy finally understood why everyone in the guild was behaving like this. Although she had only met him once, Lucy knew that this person was definitely out of place in the harmonious atmosphere of the guild. There were a total of 4 people. Among them, one of them wore a fur collar coat and walked in front. The other 3 were like guards, following behind him. It was Laxa's and Thor's order. Laxa's, who led Thor's order into the guild, seemed to have sensed something. He raised his head and looked forward. When he saw Noah standing in front of Mira, his eyes suddenly narrowed. The originally oppressive aura around him turned into a terrifying pressure. Laxa's? Fried, Bikesro, Alba, and Jerlin didn't seem to have expected that Laxa's would suddenly release such an aura. They were stunned for a moment. When they saw Noah in the guild, they were shocked and immediately understood. Only Laxus's personal guards, Thor's order, knew what kind of obsession Laxus had with Noah in his heart. For Laxus, Noah occupied a large position in his heart. A strong competitor. A person who may cause hindrance. An enemy who has the ability to pose a threat. An existence that must be defeated. Each of these identities made Noah the biggest demon in Laxus's heart. In addition, Makarov had always disagreed with his philosophy, but valued Noah. It was imaginable how much of an eyesore Noah was to Laxus. Laxus. On the other side, Noah fully activated his sensory ability, and included Laxus in the range of his sensory ability. Noah could clearly feel that compared to 2 years ago, Laxus's magic had improved by leaps and bounds. In other words, Laxus had also become stronger and more dangerous than 2 years ago. Makarov's worry was indeed necessary. For now, Laxus might really have the power of a 10th saint, which was enough to rival Makarov. If Laxus planned to do something, then Makarov might not be able to stop Laxus. However, compared to the great improvement in his strength, Laxus had also become more dangerous than before. The violent aura that was constantly rolling around his body and the wild nature of a wild beast that was about to break out of its cage were all telling Noah that he was not going to let go of this opportunity. Laxus might have reached the limit of his patience and was about to do something wrong. For no reason, Noah had such an intuition. This caused Noah to narrow his eyes, and his body gradually relaxed. He glanced at the Thunder God clan, who were standing behind Laxus and looking at him with vigilant expressions. He curled his lips into a smile and turned his head to look at Mira. "Didn't you want to prepare breakfast for me?" Mira blinked her beautiful big eyes and smiled sweetly. "Okay, please wait a moment." Leaving this sentence, Mira turned around and walked in the direction of the bar. It was also at this moment that a bolt of lightning, like a thunderbolt, flashed through the space and appeared in front of Noah. The next moment, a fist flashing with lightning suddenly appeared, bringing along a burst of crackling sound and a sharp sonic boom, fiercely falling on Noah's head. Bang! In the midst of a muffled sound, a burst of lightning and a strong impact wind with Noah as the center suddenly shook the surroundings. Not only did the surrounding tables and chairs all fly away, but it also blew away all the guild members who were closer, causing them to cry out in pain. Noah! Elisha, Naz, Gray, Lucy, and the others exclaimed. Even Mira, who walked into the bar, covered her mouth with her eyes full of worry. Unfortunately, everyone's worries were superfluous. When the impact wind dissipated, the situation at the center of the impact was also exposed to everyone's eyes. They saw that Laxus, who was wearing a fur collar coat, had appeared in front of Noah without anyone noticing. His fist, which was mixed with lightning, was still swinging forward and landed on one of Noah's arms. That was Noah's hand. Raising one hand in front of himself, Noah easily blocked Laxus's powerful blow with his wrist. A faint white light flowed on his wrist, and it shattered the lightning on Laxus's fist that was on his wrist into sparks. Glancing at the fist on his arm, Noah raised his eyes and looked at Laxus, who was looking at him with a gloomy face, and suddenly smiled. "Is this your way of greeting?" "It's a little different." Laxus showed an arrogant smile, but there was no smile in his eyes. "This is just teaching you how to respect your brother that you haven't seen for a long time." "As expected of you," Noah said lightly. "But I'm not surprised. In that head of yours, waving your fist is the best solution to solve problems, right?" "Oh." Laxus's eyes became cold. "I haven't seen you for 2 years, and your mouth has become more eloquent. I just don't know how strong you are." "What? Are you interested?" Facing the cold light in Laxus's eyes, Noah suddenly smiled, but along with the smile, there was also a suffocating and terrifying aura. "I don't mind accompanying you, but I don't have the confidence to hold back." Feeling the terrifying aura coming from Noah, Laxus's face slowly became dignified. Laxus. Freed, Bikesrow, a barge, and Jerlin also opened their eyes wide and began to feel anxious. Originally, Thor Group thought that after 2 years, with Laxus's growth, he would definitely not lose to Noah. But now, it seems that Noah's growth is not inferior to Laxus's, and may even surpass him. Could it be that Laxus is no longer Noah's opponent? Thinking of this, Thor Group, who knew how obsessed Laxus was with Noah, was worried. Elisha, Mira, and the others looked at Noah in surprise, as if they did not expect Noah to be so aggressive. Only Naz had a look of excitement on his face, as if he could not wait to join in. Isn't this growing in a good direction? Instead, it was Raxus who laughed maniacally at the same time as he became serious. 2 years ago, you were just a little brat with empty power, but now you have a good domineering aura. Very good, now you are qualified to be my younger brother, now I have the value of defeating you. After saying this, the magic power in Laxus's body rose little by little. Beep, beep, beep. A dazzling arc of electricity flashed from Laxus's body, wrapping Laxus's whole body. Laxus stared straight at Noah with a hint of madness in his eyes. Lightning flashed all over his body as Laxus stared at Noah. Let's go outside. Hearing this, everyone present understood Laxus's meaning. A battle invitation. It was a challenge from one of the strongest substitutes from Fairy Tale. A battle invitation from Laxus, who already had the power of the 10 saints, and was most likely second only to Makarov and Kildas in the guild. And to this battle invitation, Noah only responded with a calm face. Don't think that I will hold back. Chapter 365. Don't think that I'll hold back. Noah's words completely ignited the oppressive atmosphere in Fairy Tale. Looking at the two brothers confronting each other in the middle of the field, many guild members swallowed their saliva. Even Elisha, Mira, and the others couldn't help but hold their breaths. Laxus could be said to be an outlier in Fairy Tale. In Fairy Tale, Raxus had never had a close relationship with anyone other than the members of Thor's order. In fact, he had even made enemies with almost every single one of them. He was an existence that many people in Fairy Tale hated. Although they said so, no one in Fairy Tale would deny Laxus's strength. In Fairy Tale, there were currently a total of 5 S-rank sorcerers in the guild. Other than Kildas, who was recognized as the strongest, and Mira, who hadn't been active as a magic shooter for 2 years, Laxus, Elisha, and the remaining S-rank magic shooter were known as the 3 strongest candidates in Fairy Tale. It meant that they could replace Kildas at any time. However, even though they were all S-rank magic shooters, the gap between them was still very big. Just like Laxus. Based on the strength of Laxus's perception ability, Noah could sense that Laxus definitely had the strength to be rated as one of the 10 great saint magic shooters. Another example was Kildas. Even Makarov admitted that he didn't know if he could suppress him. It could be imagined that Kildas was definitely at the level of a 10 great saint. However, the so-called 10 great saint magic shooters were only chosen by the people of the council. They believed that they were the strongest, most famous, and most upright magic shooters in the continent. Among the 10 great saint magic shooters, there were those who weren't good at fighting, and those who were good at fighting. And of course, these 10 great saint magic shooters who were good at fighting were far stronger than ordinary S-rank magic shooters. Although Kildas and Laxus were both S-rank magic shooters, regardless of reputation or conduct, they weren't recognized by the council. Naturally, they weren't able to obtain the title of one of the 10 great saint magic shooters. However, from Noah's point of view, in terms of strength, Kildas and Laxus undoubtedly had the ability to become one of the 10 great saint magic shooters. Even among the 10 great saint magic shooters, the difference in strength between the number 1 and number 10 was like the difference between heaven and earth. How could there not be a difference between S-rank magic shooters? If Laxus had the strength to be ranked one of the 10 great saint magic shooters, even if he himself was an S-rank magic shooters wouldn't be a match for him. Of course, the ordinary members of the guild didn't know about this yet. However, as far as they knew, Raxus had already become an S-rank magic shooter 7 years ago. Now, 7 years later, his strength was even more terrifying. Laxus shouted without hesitation and pointed at Noah. I must prove that I'm the strongest in this guild. Do you still know that you're a member of this guild? Makarov roared. Even if I, as your grandfather, can't stop you, as the guild leader, I won't watch the members of the guild fight. Laxus, don't challenge my bottom line. Laxus clenched his fists and stared at Noah, his eyes filled with madness and anger, as well as a strong sense of unwillingness. If it was any other place, Laxus would have attacked without hesitation. But this was Fairy Tale, the guild that Laxus valued. Just as Noah thought, Laxus had always valued Fairy Tale, but because of some influence when he was young, Laxus was just like Noah said, a naive person, a child who would never grow up. Who would know that Laxus worshipped strength to prove that he wasn't just the grandson of one of the 10 saint magicians, Makarov, but that he relied on his own hard work? Who would know that Laxus only wanted to strengthen Fairy Tale, but his thoughts were twisted, and he felt that the existence of weaklings would endanger the reputation of Fairy Tale. Aside from Noah, even Laxus himself didn't realize all of this. But it was undeniable that Laxus valued Fairy Tale very much. Thus, the crackling of electricity on Laxus' body gradually weakened. Taking a deep breath, Laxus forced himself to calm down. He raised his malicious eyes and looked at Noah. One day, I will prove that no matter if it's you, that old man, Mishgang, Alusha, or even that pretentious demon, I will not lose to any of you. I am the strongest. Leaving these words, Laxus turned around without hesitation and walked out of the guild. Laxus. Freed, Bikesro, and Albarge glared fiercely at Noah, and then hurriedly followed behind Laxus and left the guild. Looking at the backs of Laxus and the 4 members of Thunder God's Council, everyone in the guild was silent for a long time. Chapter 366. A heavy atmosphere filled the air of the Fairy Tale Guild. Because of the appearance of Laxus, the joy that had always filled the Fairy Tale Guild had disappeared without a trace. What was left was only depression. When they thought that there was a terrifyingly strong person like Laxus who had always been at odds with everyone in Fairy Tale, no matter who it was, they would feel depressed. Even if it was Noah. Noah was not afraid of Laxus' provocation or challenge. To be honest, from Noah's point of view, Laxus was like a rebellious child. The lessons of adults would only stimulate the rebellious heart in his heart, so the best way was to scare him and wake him up. Otherwise, he really didn't know how long it would take for Laxus to wake up. However, Noah still had to consider Makarov's feelings. As an old man, the thing that Makarov didn't want to see the most was the killing of his own flesh and blood. Moreover, it was his 2 beloved grandsons who were killing each other. If it wasn't because of this consideration, not to mention the guild leader coming out to stop it, with Noah's current strength, even if the Emperor came, he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to stop Noah. However, meeting with Laxus again made Noah certain in his heart. Laxus definitely wouldn't wake up naturally. If he didn't want Laxus to do something that would make Makarov worried and sad, then Noah felt that he had to think of a way. Woo 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 woo. Just when everyone in the guild fell into a stifling silence, suddenly, Naz seemed to have thought of something. He held his head and suddenly shouted, scaring everyone. Before anyone in the guild could ask for the reason, Naz cried out. I actually forgot to fight with Laxus. As soon as these words came out, many people fell to the ground in a burst of crackling sounds. Are you an idiot? Gray roared at Naz. You actually want to challenge Laxus at this time? Did you eat too much fire and burn your head off? What did you say? Naz was also angry. Okay, Naz, Gray, don't quarrel at this time. Lucy had a sad face and hurriedly tried to persuade them. This is a very bad situation, very bad. Don't worry about the 2 of them. Alusha sighed. They can even quarrel at this time. I can't stand them. Noah smiled, but there was some admiration in his eyes when he looked at Naz who was fighting with Gray. As expected of the dragon's son, Shifeng's charisma was extraordinary. With just a few words, he dispelled the oppressive atmosphere in the guild, and everyone returned to normal. Was this the so-called charisma of a person? Naz was really an incredible person. Are you okay? Mira, who was staying at the bar, also came out and held up the hand that Noah used to block Laxus's attack, and said with some concern. "You shouldn't be hurt, right?" "I'm fine." Noah gave Mira a reassuring smile. "It's just an obvious attack that can't be more obvious. It's not enough to hurt me. Besides, Laxus hasn't shown his true ability yet. If he wants to hurt me, he won't be qualified if he doesn't use an attack that's 10 times stronger than the one just now." "As expected of you," Elusha said with admiration. "In the guild, you're the only one who can suppress Laxus. Didn't Laxus just say that he won't admit defeat, including you?" Noah shrugged. "No matter what, you are still the strongest female magic shooter in Fairy Tale. Don't admit defeat so easily. Everyone is so powerful." On the side, Lucy said enviously. "Elusha and that Laxus are both S-grade magic shooters. Although Noah isn't an S-grade magic shooter, he definitely won't lose to that Laxus, that Mishgang, and that Kildas. Fairy Tale really has a lot of powerful people." At this point, Lucy suddenly said doubtfully. "But, Laxus just mentioned a pretentious magic person. Who is that?" Hearing this, everyone around them all quieted down. Mira was originally full of smiles, but after hearing Lucy's words, she suddenly covered her face and cried bitterly. "Miss Mira?" Lucy was shocked. "That guy Laxus, isn't it too much to say that?" In the past, Elusa would quarrel with Mira every day. It would be abnormal if they didn't start a fight within 3 days. Now, she seemed to have let go of her previous grudges with the gentler Mira. She even stood up for Mira. "You actually said that someone is pretentious. There should be a limit to how much you can say without thinking." Lucy was stunned for a moment, and then without any suspense, cried out in surprise. She looked at Mira in disbelief, who was covering her face and crying bitterly. "Don't tell me that pretentious magic person is Miss Mira?" "Woo woo woo." Mira started to cry even more miserably. That. Miss Mira." Lucy was at a loss and did not seem to know what to do. She could only look at Noah, who had a bitter smile on his face, for help. "Noah, quickly help me coax Miss Mira. You guys." Noah could only step forward, reach out his hand, and gently pat Mira's head. "All right, stop crying, Mira. It doesn't matter if you're the violent Mira or the gentle Mira, you're still the Mira I know. No matter what others think of you, I know you. I know the true gentleness in your heart." Hearing this, Mira finally stopped crying. She raised her head and looked pitifully at Noah with teary eyes. "Then which one do you like?" Once this was said, the whole place fell silent again. In the guild, all the male members stared at Noah with hateful eyes, as if they wanted to kill Noah with their gazes. On the other hand, the female members looked at all of this with a mocking expression, as if they were watching a good show. This made Noah's face stiffen. "Noah." As a good brother who loved his sister, Elfman raised his sandbag-sized fist and shouted. "If you're a man, you can't back down now." Noah scolded in his heart. Wasn't this adding fuel to the fire? Seeing that Mira was pouting and looking like she would cry at any time, Noah could only brace himself and do it. "No matter which Mira. I like both of them, ah." The female members of the guild screamed as if they felt that it was mushy. "Oh." The male members of the guild screamed in despair as if they were big bosses that had been defeated. Myra's cheeks turned red, and she finally smiled through her tears. "Thank you, I'm so happy." As she said this, Mira stepped forward and put her mouth next to Noah's ear. "Since you've confessed, I won't pursue the matter with Lisanna." This sentence was like a bolt from the blue, and Noah was stunned. "Mira, so you knew?" No. If he thought about it carefully, it would be strange if you didn't know. After all, Mira and Lisanna were sisters, and they lived together. Last night, Noah and Lisanna were affectionate for the entire night, and Lisanna didn't return home. How could Mira, who lived with Lisanna, not know? Moreover, Noah had just returned yesterday, and Mira only needed to think for a moment to know that Lysana didn't return home and stayed at Noah's place. Then, there was no then. Just like Lysana knew her sister's feelings best, Mira definitely knew her sister's feelings. Under such circumstances, how could she not know why Lysana stayed out all night with Noah? In other words, this matter had been exposed from the start. "Don't make Lysana sad," Mira said softly as she tiptoed. "Also, don't make me sad." With that, Mira turned her head, and before Noah could react, she kissed Noah in front of all the guild members. Ah! Seeing this scene, the female members of the guild screamed again. Oh! On the other hand, the male members once again let out miserable howls. Many of them even fell to the ground, unable to move. Holding his cheek, Noah looked at Mira, who was smiling gently at him, and his head became dizzy. What does this mean? Is he really allowing me to have both sisters? This is a free lunch. Chapter 367. As a result, Noah was teased by those who were familiar with him and those who were unfamiliar with him for a whole day because he had confessed to Mira in front of everyone in the guild. Mira seemed to have fallen into the same predicament as Noah, but the ones who teased Mira were only the female magic shooters of the guild. Although the male magic shooters also surrounded Mira, they used various ways to say bad things about Noah, as if they were advising Mira not to be deceived. In this regard, Mira treated people with a gentle smile that could melt people all day long. Whether it was the male magic shooters who splashed dirty water on Noah or the female magic shooters who made fun of her, she always smiled without saying anything, as if she enjoyed this feeling very much. Under such circumstances, Noah simply retreated. Originally, Noah wanted to see if he should accept some commissions today and go out to work, but after Mira and Laxas made such a fuss, he lost all interest. Thus, today, Noah's 3 meals were prepared in advance by the gentle Mira, and it seemed that Mira even paid the bill in advance, which made many of his companions tease Noah again, saying that he was living off a woman. But it couldn't be helped, who asked Noah's savings in this world to be basically used up in the past 4 years of cultivation, and now he didn't even have a penny left. Although in the guild, even if one didn't have money, they could still eat on credit, and the guild wouldn't let the members here starve, but there shouldn't be anyone who would be willing to eat on credit, right? At least, Noah couldn't stand it. This made Noah secretly sigh in his heart. Except in the world of absolute dual blades, Noah's first worry in every world was how to make money, and it was the same when he returned to his own home. This was really crazy. It seemed that no matter what, he would have to go out to work tomorrow. With this thought in mind, Noah endured the teasing of the guild members for a whole day. But Noah didn't know that this plan of his was destined to be unable to be realized. When the sun went down, Mira came to Noah's room. Looking at Lysana, who was sleeping soundly on Noah's bed, Mira rolled her eyes at the embarrassed Noah. Then, she came to the bedside and pushed Lysana's delicate body. "Lysana, wake up." Ugh. Perhaps it was because of Myra's voice, but Lysana still thought that she was sleeping in her own bed. She turned over and mumbled in her sleep. "Sister Mira, I'm very tired today. I don't want to go to the guild. Please, let me sleep for a while more." Tired? Why was he tired? As long as one wasn't muddle-headed, it wouldn't be difficult to guess based on the current situation, right? This caused Noah's expression to become even more awkward. At the same time, it also caused Mira to reveal a somewhat angry expression. She placed her hands on her waist and angrily said to Noah, "I thought that if it was Noah, he would definitely be very gentle to girls. It seems that I was wrong." Noah didn't know how to respond. In fact, the reason Lysana became like this wasn't because Noah didn't care about the girl's body for his own comfort. Most of the blame lay with Lysana. Perhaps it was because she had suppressed her feelings for Noah for too long and had suddenly burst out, or because she knew that Noah had been confessed to by another girl, but last night, Lysana had unexpectedly taken the initiative. That passion was something that even Noah couldn't take. Of course, it wasn't his body that couldn't take it, but his mind. That was why Lasana's boundless passion last night didn't just make Noah feel good, it also made her feel satisfied and exhausted. Hence, Lysana had to bear at least 70% of the blame for this. However, Noah wouldn't push all the blame away because of this. Even if it was because of Lasana's initiative, the one who tormented Lysana like this was him. He wouldn't refute. Besides, Lysana had already given everything to Noah. Couldn't Noah bear the scolding of his sister? That wasn't what Noah would do. What should we do now? Mira was a little distressed. Lysana hasn't been home for a night. We can't let her spend the night outside. Otherwise, Elfman will definitely be worried. I think it's better not to wake Lysana up. Noah said weakly. I can send Lysana back. Is that so? Mira tilted her head and made a cute expression. Then, she said helplessly. That's the only way. After saying that, Mira went to the clothes rack and took down all of Lysana's clothes. She turned around and sat on the bed. Her beautiful eyes glanced at Noah and her cheeks puffed up. Looking at a girl changing clothes isn't something Noah would do. Hearing that, Noah could only bitterly smile and turn around. He couldn't help but feel sad. At this time, what part of your sister haven't I seen? I've touched her all over. This sentence could only be said in Noah's heart. He couldn't say it out loud. After all, Noah's sharp senses could still feel the displeasure in Myra's heart. Whether it was because her sweetheart had the most intimate relationship with a girl other than herself, or because her most beloved sister's body was taken away by someone else, it was obvious that Mira wasn't as indifferent as she looked on the surface. She just couldn't make things difficult for him. Like Lysana, Mira was actually very conflicted in her heart. The person her most beloved sister liked was her sweetheart. Mira, who didn't want to see her sister sad, could only choose to give up or be like Lysana and choose to ignore and escape. Mira and Lysana, as sisters, only had one thing in mind. That was, they didn't want to be sad, and they didn't want their closest sister to be sad. So, both of them subconsciously avoided making a choice and threw Noah a sentence that best expressed their feelings. Don't make us sad. That was all. As for sharing a husband with her sister, perhaps the two girls already had a certain level of awareness in their hearts. It was just that they were still in the stage of accepting it. Noah, Mira, and Lysana didn't know what the final outcome would be. They could only let nature take its course. When Noah carried the sleeping Lysana on his back and walked out of the guild with Mira, the sky was already completely dark. Seems like we've wasted a lot of time. Mira looked at the sky and said worriedly with one hand on her face. I wonder if Elfman has eaten properly. Looking at Mira, who was sincerely worried about her brother and sister, Noah realized that as long as he was with Mira, his heart would be touched all the time. The gentle Mira in front of him had changed into this because of him. While Mira was able to express her gentleness and cuteness with every action, her concern for her family remained unchanged. Just like Noah said, Mira was gentle from start to finish. She could become a violent girl to protect her brother and sister, but she could also become impeccably gentle because of a single sentence from her sweetheart. That was enough to prove that there was a gentleness in her heart that outsiders couldn't detect. It was precisely because of this gentleness that came from the bottom of her heart that Mira was able to completely transform herself in just 2 short years. This was because Mira had always had a gentleness hidden in the depths of her heart. But now, that gentleness was no longer hidden. It was all on the surface. It was also because of this that Mira was able to affect Noah's heart all the time like she was now. Elfman is no longer a child, Noah said to Mira with a smile as he hid this feeling in his heart. I believe that he will take good care of himself. Haha. Mira smiled gently. That's true. Just like that, the two of them took the sleeping Lysana away from the guild and walked to the other side of the street. At that moment, Noah, who was chatting with Mira, felt something strange. Whoosh, an extremely soft sound of something breaking through the air could be heard. At this moment, a bad premonition rose in Noah's heart, causing him to stop in his tracks. Mira stopped as well and asked in confusion. What's wrong? Noah didn't say anything and instead released his sensory ability. The feedback from his sensory ability caused Noah's pupils to shrink bit by bit. You're tuning in to the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.